and Dean Professor and Head Department of Value Education, Tamilnadu Teachers Education University, Tamilnadu, to welcome you all for today's excellent learning feast. Welcome, sir, to proceed with welcome speech.
Shiva, excuse me first, sir. Hey, Jaishi, brother.
சிற்றம் பலஞ்சலில் அல்லும் பகலும் நின்று ஆடுகின்றான் எல்லை கூத்தம்பல நடராஜ பெருமானை வணங்கி மோஸ்ட் ரெஸ்பெக்டட் ஹானரபிள் வைஸ் சான்சலர் ஆஃப் அவர் ஸ்டேட் யூனிவர்சிட்டி, மோஸ்ட் ரெஸ்பெக்டட் ப்ரோ சான்சலர் ஆஃப் ஏசியு பெங்களூர், most respected honorable vice chancellor of ACU Bangalore, registrar of our university, respected registrar ACU Bangalore, controller of examination our university, convener of the program today webinar, respected resource person, organizing secretaries, organizing joint secretaries, associate professor, assistant professor, participants from different parts of the class, and my dear students. Very good. It's great pleasure. Most respected honorable vice chancellor people and good administrator. On behalf of myself, the Department of Value Education, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. I welcome most respected Honorable Chancellor Professor K. Edappa, ACU Bangalore, Karnataka. He is also a polite, efficient, and empathy. On behalf of myself and Department of Value Education and most respected Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor A. Chandrasekhar, ACU Bangalore, Karnataka. He is also a simplicity, empathy, and loyalty. On behalf of myself, the Department of Value Education, and ACU Bangalore, Karnataka, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome our registrar, Professor B. Balakrishnan. He is a learner and a good scholar. On behalf of myself, Value Education, and ACU Bangalore, next I welcome our resource person, Professor S. Sendilnathan, Director, Human Resource Development Center, and the Professor, Department of Educational Technology, Bharat University. He is also a renowned personality for his commitment and hard work and contribution for betterment of higher education. The Tamilnadu Teachers Education University and ACU Bangalore, Karnataka, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome the Registrar Professor C.K. Subbaraya, Registrar ACU. He is also a honest and a dynamic person. Bangalore, Karnataka. On behalf of myself, the Department of Value Education, ACU Bangalore, Karnataka, I welcome our convener, Sivaram of Humanities and Social Sciences, PGS College of Bangalore. He is also a very hard and a dynamic person. On behalf of myself, the Department of Value Education, ACU and ACU Bangalore, Karnataka, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome Organizing Secretary Sir Rajulakshmi, Mr. Devananda. Yes, sir. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome Organizing Science Joint Secretary Dr. Ratishwari. Sir. Professor, associate professor, assistant professor, non-teaching staff, principals, participants, scholars, my dear students. I wholeheartedly welcome sir. Once again, I welcome one and all. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for welcoming all and making us all to feel as one family. Barack Obama says, when times get tough, we don't give up, we get up. Learning this very well, at this pandemic situation, I would like to request Professor Dr. N. Panchanathan, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Tamil Nadu, who has been having an experience of 30 years of teaching, academic, research, and extension activities. He has guided 40 PhD scholars, 23 MPhil scholars, and 200 MBA candidates. At the same time, he has received 41 prestigious national and international awards and fellowships. We are happy to get motivated by your inaugural address, sir. Please do welcome, sir, and proceed, sir.
Good morning to all. Mr. Arakyasamy, am I audible?
Answer, it's audible.
Okay, thank you. Once again, very good morning to every one of you present here. At the outset, I appreciate and congratulate the dignitary participants of both the Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University and Adichun Chanagiri University ACU of Karnataka, one of the reputed universities. People, great personalities, dignitaries present here, galaxy of, I am tempted, like Professor Soundararajan, I am tempted to speak about everybody due to want of time. They have given me 5 minutes time. So, with your permission, I address as galaxy of respected and honorable persons present here, like our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor Professor K. Bhairappa, other honorable and respected galaxy of people present like Professor Balakrishnan, Registrar of the University, Professor Subbaraya, Registrar of the University, Professor Senthil Nathan, Director, HRDC, Bharati Dasan University, and today's hero and guru to all of us. Similarly, Professor Soundararajan, the dynamic dean and organizing team leader, Dr. Shivaramu, the dynamic dean of the ACU, Rajalakshmi Madam, Devanand sir, Ratishwari Madam, J. Kumar sir, Pattuswamy sir, Chandrappa sir, Arogyasamy sir, and similarly other galaxy of very respected, highly reputed, excellent academicians presenting here, and wonderful participants, very wonderful participant, as he rightly said, stop learning, stop teaching, stop learning, stop doing research. So a good teacher, a good researcher has to continuously learn. For our honorable formal Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Mr. Annadurai, requested doctors to postpone his operation for one day because he was reading a book. By that day only he completes. So the next day he made it up, his operation. Honorable former Prime Minister of India, for him, Jawaharlal Nehru ji, travel and reading, they go hand in hand. Anytime, anywhere traveling, immediately he will take a book and read. Similarly, there are galaxy of great people who continuously reading, learning, and listening in that way. they were keeping updated. So this program, this wonderful program makes all the respected participants and organizing team members, I have not mentioned many names, please do excuse me, and this will help us, this program will help us to get new insights and reinforcement. Sometimes some knowledge is already with us, for which we need reinforcement. So once again, I congratulate organizing team, and on behalf of organizing team, all the participants, teaching and non-teaching members of both universities and other universities and colleges. Similarly, on behalf of participants and on my personal behalf, I congratulate organizing team for organizing this great, wonderful event on register of research communication. The very important thing for all research, if you see the medical research, it's a record. Register is a record. This record gives excellent input, insight, review, and fast work for other people in every field. It may be education, psychology, medical, engineering, biochemistry, biomedical, whatever may be the subject. The register is a bona fide record of earlier researches carried out in this area. So register plays a very important role. However, I am not an expert on that, and our most respected, wonderful teacher, great administrator, and nice speaker, Professor Sendilnathan sir, will throw more light on us on this topic. We are all eagerly waiting to listen. At the same time, from this we all should come to a conclusion that for a good research, quality matters. Quality matters. Quality is an important component. Only quality will provide us an excellent research. I used to repeat in all meetings that 32 years old boy who completed his doctorate in Singapore, one of the very top 5 universities, he published one paper, only one paper in Financial Times top ranked journals. He was invited by many countries, but before pandemic, he visited 19 countries. Last country was Australia, to speak 1.5 hours about his research contribution, single paper, and another 1.5 hours discussion, for which every university gave him $5,000 plus excellent hospitality, including business class airfare and star hotel accommodation. Quality matters. In research, quality matters. So our country, our Bharat, our great India, our mother country represents 17% of world population. In the world population, 17% of people are living in our country, but our research paper publications number is less than 4%. Patent is less than 0.3 or 4%. So we all have to contribute a lot to our Bharat, to the country, our mother country. So organizing this type of great program will certainly help all of us to grow further. Congratulations, the Tamilnadu Teachers Education University teachers and non-teaching staff together organized 1,500 program in 365 days. Then they have signed many MOUs. I take this opportunity to invite all respected participants to collaborate with Tamilnadu Teachers Education University and the ACU Bangalore, Adichan Nagari University Bangalore, for more MOUs and collaborative activities. Joint programs we will do. The future is going to be not the competitive world, it is going to be a collaborative world. You grow, I will grow. I will grow, you also will grow. We will grow together. So we all will do that. With this note, with folded hands, I invite all of you to Tamilnadu Teachers Education University whenever you come to Chennai, Tamil Nadu. And with this note, I am happy to inaugurate this wonderful, great program. Congratulations and best wishes to all those who are directly or indirectly involved in organizing and participating in this program. Best wishes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sir. Your experience address made us not to give up when times get tough. I'm immensely happy to request Professor Dr. V. Balakrishnan, Registrar, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Tamil Nadu, formerly Dean of Faculty, Professor and Head, who has presented many papers and seminars nationally and international level. He has given research guidance for PhD and MPhil scholars and ongoing PhD for 6 members, sir. Please do welcome, sir, to address the gathering.
A pleasant morning to all of you. I am very glad to offer felicitation address on the happy occasion of this national webinar on Register of Research Communication, organized by Department of Early Education, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, in collaboration with PGS College of Education, Adi Sunsaranagiri University, Karnataka. At the outset, I thank Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor N. Panjanadam sir from the Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University and Professor S. Chandrasekhar Shetty, Vice Chancellor sir from the Adi Sunsanagiri University for their motivation and encouragement of faculty to organize this type of national webinar on Register of Research Communication. The Register of Research Communication refers to the process of interpreting and translating complex research findings into a language, format, and context that non-experts can understand easily. It goes way beyond the dissemination of the research publication and result. It involves a network of participants and beneficiaries. I hope this one-day national webinar will be made a elaborate discussion on the usefulness of Register of Research Communication by the Professor Yes, Tamilnadu sir, Director, UGC Human Resource Development Center, Professor in the Department of Education Technology, Paradise University, Tiruchirappalli. I accord hearty congratulations to the Director of this national webinar, Professor M. Soundararajan, Dean of Faculty, Professor and Head Department of Early Education, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, convener of this national webinar, Dr. A.T. Sivaram, Dean, Faculty of Social Science and Humanities. I also accord hearty blessing to the organizing secretaries of this national webinar, Dr. R. Rajalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Early Education, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Mr. Devananda, Assistant Professor, PGS College of Education. I also accord hearty congratulations and blessing benediction to the organizing joint secretaries, Dr. K. Rajeshwari, Assistant Professor, Mr. V. Vijay Kumar, Assistant Professor, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Mr. V. Putta Swami, Assistant Professor, Mr. A.H. Gopal, Assistant Professor, for their active involvement and commitment to organize this national webinar successfully. I wish to accord bowing gratitude to Professor S. Sendilnathan, Director, UGC Human Resource Development Center, Paradise University, Tiruchirappalli, and Professor K. Vairappa, Pro Vice Chancellor, Dean, Research, and Dr. C.K. Subbaraya, Register, for their encouragement for their faculty members to organize this type of national webinar successfully. I wish you all the best for grand success of this national webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. It is an honor to request Dr. A.T. Shivaramu, Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, Adi Sunsanagiri University, Karnataka, Principal, BJS College of Education, Vijayanagar. Presently leading 480 plus institutions across Karnataka as an administrative officer. He has worked and served as a principal in various colleges. He is an active researcher and guide PhD and MPhil scholars. Please do welcome, sir, and please do proceed, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Jai Shri Gurudev. Good morning to one and all present here. Seeking the blessings of His Holiness, Parama Pujya Jagadguru Shri Shri Dr. Balagangadhar Nath Swamiji, and also seeking the blessings of Parama Pujya Jagadguru Shri Shri Dr. Nirmalananda Nath Swamiji is the Chancellor of our Adi Chunchandgiri University. It is a glorious moment to extend my warm wishes on behalf of Adi Chunchandgiri University. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Tamilnadu Teacher Education University, Professor Dr. N. Panchanathan sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor of ASU, Dr. Chandrasekhar Setti sir, Co-Vice Chancellor, Sir Dr. K. Bhairappa sir, respected Dr. C.K. Subraya sir, Adi Chunchandgiri University, and respected Professor V. Balakrishnan sir, Register, Tamilnadu University, respected and Gostam Dean, Controller of Examination, Tamilnadu University, respected M. Sankarajan, Dean, Professor of Organization, respected sir, respected R. Rajalakshmi, Assistant Professor, and all the organizers and vigorous speakers of Professor Senthil Nathan is the Director, FCA, UGC, Professor, Department of Education, Technology, Bhaktidasan University, Tiruchenapalli, Tamil Nadu. Distinguished guests and all my dear participants from the different parts of India. I am very much delighted to speak in this national webinar jointly organized by Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Chennai, and Karnataka Adi Chunchandgiri University. The collaboration between the research performing institutions is no longer optional, nor it is simply an add extra to our institution daily work. No matter how good it is, no matter how well established, an individual research performing organization cannot attain the excellence its own. The institution must harness the power to strategic partnership with other universities like Tamil Nadu University. That's why I feel great pleasure to announce that Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Chennai, and Adi Chunchandgiri University, Karnataka are going to sign MOU with an objective of achieving excellence in innovative teaching, learning and research to meet the requirements of the 21st century skills. Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University is an exclusive university for teacher education established by the Government of Tamil Nadu to promote excellence in teacher education and produce the dynamic and smart teacher for the benefit of the society and the nation at large. We are great advance have been made in education sector of teacher education endeavor. With this regards, university continuously organizing the state, national, international seminars, webinars and conferences under the dynamic leadership of the Vice Chancellor and his team, which is beneficial for educators and students to sharpen their skills. It's a privilege to share the platform and to participate actively in every event organized by Teacher Education Tamil Nadu University. Now I'm pleased to happy to share about few points about our Adi Chunchandgiri University. Adi Chunchandgiri University is a multidisciplinary university with excellence in medical education and engineering, the pharmacy, nursing, teacher education, natural science, research and innovation established in the year 2018 under the sponsoring trust Adi Chunchandgiri Shikshana Trust, which was started in the year 1973 with the objective of rendering social, charitable, educational and medical service blended with the spiritualism to the people of Karnataka, India and the NRI community across the world under the stewardship of 71st Pontiff of Adi Chunchandgiri Mahasamsthanama, his divine soul, Padma Bhushana, Sri Sri Dr. Balagangadhar Nath Mahaswamiji, who started 450 education institutions all over India, which is also include an institution in the different parts of Tamil Nadu. Happy to share this. We have our institution in Salem, Bhavani, Hero, Tali, Kambam, that is what we call Adichunchanagiri Women's Degree College. Is a NAC A grade is secured. We also have Adichunchanagiri Mahasamsthana Shakamat branch in Rameshwaram. So all our Mahaswamiji frequently visiting the Tamil Nadu and they have good collaborations with the different dimensions with the Tamil Nadu University. Now, the trust is lead under the guidance of His Holiness Jagat Guru Sri Dr. Nirmalanandanath Mahaswamiji. He is done his MTech in Tamil Nadu and also is a 72nd Pontiff of Adichunchanagiri Mahasamsthana Mata. Is Honorable Chancellor of Adichunchanagiri Shikshana Trust. He is currently running over 485 plus education institutions and charitable institutions across the nation and abroad in New Jersey, with the great leap of providing Jnana, Vijnana, Tantrajnana based quality education across the world to enlighten the young souls to spread the peace, harmony and well-being in the present and future world. It is said that quality is not the destination, it is a continuous journey, according to him. This webinar is organized with an objective of building a professional career, enhancement of teaching practice and encouragement of teacher-based practice and knowledge production, as there is a great relevancy to research in teacher education. Apart from ensuring an in-depth knowledge over a topic, scientific and historical research papers also contribute to the world of the knowledge, what rightly mentioned our Vice Chancellor. So the research journals or papers writing become the helping hand for the students in the future, guiding and helping them in research. Teacher fraternity, the student teacher need to understand the role of the scientific education research in society and the importance of the scientific research in education that will ultimately reward them in return. The National Education Policy, as you know, 2020, focuses on strategic needs to promote research, innovation across all the disciplines, promote interdisciplinary research and make India its global hub. So we are happy to announce that our constituent colleges is in the true sense is a multidisciplinary universities. I suggested we can collaborate with our medical college, engineering college, nursing college, pharmacy college, the different programs we can organize in this platform. The policy exclusively lays stress on establishing the strong research institutions and promoting research and development at university level, state level, national level. The quality of all education system depends on the teacher education, what I believe. In this transition period, responsibility of the teacher education institution is more, and it is time for all of us to step in the caring research activity. Hence, I hope this webinar will fulfill objective which it is being to organize. Thank you for the opportunity to organize such a national webinar. I hope it will continue all your support for the development of the teacher education and the nation. So there, our Professor Bhairappa sir is exclusively guiding all of us, in particularly for the research and development, and is an international publisher. And then our guests, they're going to introduce you. So thank you once again for all the participants, participating in this webinar. Thank you, one and all, for particularly. Thank you very much for the team of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, sir. Thank you, one and all, for the patience listening. Jai Shri Gurudev.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable presence. At the same time, I would like to thank you for your thoughtful addresses. John Prince says, if your action inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become, you are a leader. This quotation is really applicable for our Professor K. Bhairappa, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean Research, Adichunchanagiri University, Karnataka, who has acquired his PhD degree and postdoctoral training both from Moscow State University, Russia. He has spent about 31 years at the University of Mysore in different capacities before becoming Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University, Karnataka in June 2014. Currently, from July 2018, he is the Pro Vice Chancellor of Adichunchanagiri University, Karnataka. He has been now recognized as one of the top 2% scientists in the world as per the recent survey conducted by the prestigious Stanford University, USA. He was awarded Sir C.V. Raman Birth Century Award in 2016 by the Honorable Prime Minister of India in recognition of his contribution to science and technology in India. I would like to request you, sir, to inspire us by your introductory speech. Welcome, sir, and begin your speech, sir.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers for this wonderful and thoughtful webinar, national webinar on an important topic that is Register of Research Communication. So I'm going to use my slides. Do you see the slides, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So thank you very much once again. Both the BGS College of Education, Adichinchannagiri University, and Tamil Nadu Education University. I'm extremely happy to share my brief knowledge on the research communication and the documentation of the research data or output, whatever it is, and that in the presence of the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Professor N. Panchanathan, and other distinguished guests like M. Soundararajan, Dean, Professor and Head Department of Value Education, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education, and also we have Professor V. Balakrishnan and our Registrar, Professor C.K. Subbaraya, and Professor A.T. Shivaram, Dr. R. Rajalakshmi, Professor S. Senthilnathan, and a host of other participants from all over the country. This is my very brief introduction about my, brief biography, I can say, giving my experience in the field of academia with a teaching experience of about 38 years and administrative experience about 17 years. And I have generated about 80 crores as a professor at the University of Mysore through different projects to the university. And I have published over 500 articles in peer-reviewed journals. And also authored and edited 10 books published from Springer, Germany, and also elsewhere, UK, and so many other international publishers. And I have the highest citations, around 10,000 almost citations, highest in the university, from the University of Mysore. And the Mendeleev weaves, 1,27,500 Mendeleev weaves, more than this number of people have read my documents or my research publications. I have many collaborative research projects with Japan, about 1.2 million US dollars project I had. Also in US, I had a project worth of about 0.25 million US dollars, and I have operated more than 18 major research projects and so on. Anyway, I am telling this because, the conference, this webinar is for research documentation or registering the research communication. That is why these figures are equally important, just to show how your research registration can lead to this kind of statistics. Now, look at what is research. Why do you publish? The researcher is, actually posing questions, and he tries to solve them through experiments, data, and finally publishes the answers to the questions. Research output is to be registered immediately in various platforms. Otherwise, you lose not just your rights or the proprietaries, but the others can take over and publish the same thing in their names. So that is why whatever the research output you get after your extensive research work, whether it is exploratory research work based on the experiments or the field data or the field survey, all that should be documented or registered immediately after your research work is finished. So the research is nothing but, it's a cycle. It's nothing but identifying a right topic, research topic or a research area which suits your knowledge or your potential, and then design the study, research study, what methodology you have to adopt, and then carry out the actual research, analyze the research, or you can use even the statistical analysis, not just using the instruments, analytical equipment, then publish your research results immediately, or even patent if it is, unique or very innovative. So why research is important for students? You all know, research is nothing but understanding the facts, unraveling the mysteries of nature, whether it is a physical mystery or chemical or the biological or social. When I say social, cultural activities, human activities, and so on. So most of the participants in this webinar are from the social science background. In fact, let me say education is not just confined to the social science. It is also a field of technology. It is called in most of the universities, and long ago it was practiced abroad as Department of Education Technology. So the research is, quoted even in Sama Veda. Long ago, several thousands of years ago, the light of knowledge is fully capable of destroying the darkness of ignorance. This also helps us in overcoming all the difficulties and in achieving success in all our endeavors. This Samaveda about 4,000 years ago. Therefore, research is very important to understand and even for our livelihood. And whatever the research we publish, we carry out, the output, the research output are published or documented or registered in different platforms, maybe periodically published academic magazines or in the books, or maybe, communicate research findings to the wide audience. You can create your own platform to communicate research findings, or you can give your objectives and what materials, what data you are generating, and what methodology you are adopting, and what findings you found. You can publish in the journals, and you can update the knowledge in the specific topic. All these you can document in the form of books or journals or journals, magazines, and so on. So normally, a research paper describes what exactly you have carried out, and that shows what you are doing currently and what problems you want to solve or reduce, why it is important, why that problem is important, and what you have achieved. All that will be documented in your research paper, and how your results, your data, and why you got such results, or analysis of what results you obtained, how much better it is compared to the earlier published or registered documentation. So even a negative result, if you get in course of your research work, it is not a failure according to me, but understanding why it is negative is positive in research. That itself is research. That's why you got the negative results. So if you can understand, definitely you can be successful, and you can understand the mysteries or so many other things related to that topic. So types of article writing or documentation. It can be a research proposal. See, whenever you carry out some research, ultimately, you need to publish or report it or register it or document it or patent it. So in most of the developed countries, in big organizations, including the companies, corporates, they stick to this publish or perish. So if you do not publish, you have to walk out, say the management will say, thank you very much for the wonderful service. If we need your future services, we will call you. So thank you very much. They say goodbye and send you. So publishing is very, or registering your research output is very important. So research articles can be in the form of a research proposal maybe, or a report writing, or a thesis writing. Thesis maybe for the MPhil, or doctorate, PhD, or DSc, or DLit, like that. And even, the master's degree, MSc, or MA, MEd, MCom. So like this different, thesis you can, write based on your research output. Then you can also, publish or write articles based on your research output for the conferences or the proceedings, articles. For the proceedings also you can write the articles based on your output. Then journal articles you can write. That is very important, both SIC or non-SIC journals. Then patent writing and registration. So these are the different, varieties or different forms of registering your research output. Most important thing when you write your research output or register or document your research output, you must ensure the research ethics in that. Copying or plagiarism should be completely avoided. It is not only going to defame you or destroy your image, but also the image of the institution. Then the research publications, you should follow your research ethics in that also. Institutional reputation is also involved when you register or document your research work. Then knowledge dissemination. So this is also one of the most important aspects involved in the research communication. Through that, you can spread your knowledge and also fulfill the societal commitments. So ultimately, it is for the humanity and for the society. Whatever the research we do should have some bearing on the society, on the humanity, on science and technology, or in understanding the nature, the mysteries of the nature. So thank you very much. With these few words, so I was little bit, so I can't speak much. As you can see, I can speak for hours together on this topic, and it's my very favorite topic, I can say. And I have been talking about this topic, actually, register or documenting your research output or research communication. Regularly, I have been talking for the last 3 decades, not only to my students, but also to my faculty members, my colleagues, and also other, what you call, colleagues from the other universities who are in the academic field. So thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share briefly my knowledge on the documentation or registering of the research output or research communication. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sir, for showing us that you are a leader. Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sorry to inform you that.
You can answer or you can contact me through email.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry to inform that it was informed that Dr. C.K. Subbaraya, Registrar, Adisuchiri University, Karnataka, due to time factor, he has cancelled his speech, expositional address. Thank you, sir, anyway, for your valuable presence, sir. It is time for all of us to know more about our today's resource person, Professor S. Sendilnathan. For this, may I request Dr. Rajalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Tamilnadu Teachers Education University, Tamil Nadu, and the organizer of the secretaries of the webinar to introduce the valuable person of today's webinar. You are most welcome, ma'am, and you are requested to introduce.
Is it audible?
Yeah, it's very audible, ma'am. No problem.
Most respected and honorable Vice Chancellor Professor N. Panjanathan sir, Honorable Co-Vice Chancellor Professor K. Bhairappa, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor S. Chandrasekhar Reddy, respected Professor V. Balakrishnan, Registrar in Charge, respected Registrar Dr. C.K. Subbaraya, respected Professor M. Govindan, Controller of Examinations, respected Professor M. Soundarajan, Dean, Professor and Head, and respected Professor Dr. A.T. Shivaraman, Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences and Principal BGS College of Education, and other respected professors, associate professors and assistant professors, and my dear participants, respected Professor S. Sendilnathan, resource person of this day, and other participants, a warm greetings to all of you. It's a great honor for me to introduce our special guest, Professor S. Sendilnathan, to this wonderful audience. His qualifications are MA English, MA Journalism and Mass Communication, MA and PhD in Education. He has served as assistant professor, associate professor, and professor in the Department of Educational Technology, Bharatdasa University, for the past 15 years and more. And now he is serving as the director, UGC Human Resource Development Center, Bharatdasa University, Tiruchirappalli. He is specialized in educational technology, ICT in education, e-learning, educational media, e-content development, English language teaching. His key achievements are as follows. That is, he has contributed as a member of the working group to the successful completion of UNESCO's assignment on learning to learn English with information and communication technology. He has served as consultant to Commonwealth of Learning, Canada, in open and distance learning materials development in Bangladesh. He has served as member, Board of Management, Educational Multimedia Resource Center, Madurai Comrade University. He was also served as member, State Level Subcommittee on Teacher Education for reviewing the National Curriculum Framework 2005. He is also serving as member in the expert committees of Bhadiyar, Bharidasan, Anna, Madurai Comrade, Tamil and Tamilnadu Teachers Education, Rani Chinnamma, Mother Teresa Women's University, Karnataka and Calicut Universities, and National Council for Teacher Education. He is serving as expert in the Academic Council of MHRD's National Research Center, Department of Education, Central University of Kerala, Kasaragod. He is also serving as external member in the Advisory Committee of the School of Education under the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. He has organized and facilitated a number of capacity development programs on e-content development to higher education teachers and coordinated the production of hundreds of e-modules on a variety of topics. He has organized and facilitated a number of faculty development programs on web applications for facilitating learning to higher education teachers involving hands-on training in using web and Google Cloud applications for education. He has delivered invited lectures in faculty development programs, orientation programs, refresher courses to the teachers of higher education all over South India. His research contributions are as conducting and guiding researchers into various aspects of educational technology, ICT in education, e-learning, media-based education, and English language teaching at M.Ed, MPhil, and PhD levels. He has guided 6 PhDs and also now guiding 6 PhDs and also guided MPhil, is 32 MPhil candidates and now guiding 8 MPhil candidates. He was also member in so many editorial boards and board of studies, like member in the Board of Studies in Education Technology and Teacher Education at Bharatdas University, Tiruchirappalli, and also Teacher Education at University of Calicut, and in English at PSG College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore, and also in English at Nehru Memorial College, Tiruchirappalli. He has served as a member in the Board of Studies in Visual Communication at Ayya Nadar Janaki Ammal College, Sivagasi, and in Animation at Subbalakshmi College, Madurai. He is also serving as a member of the editorial boards of national, international journals on education, teacher education, and English language teaching. And some of the journals are International Journal of ICT and Innovations in Education, Education India Journal, International Journal of Teacher Education Research, Modern Journal of Applied Linguistics, Teresian Journal of English Language Studies, Research and Reflections on Education. He has published so many articles in national and international journals. And he was also published books like Reciprocal Teaching of Reading, EST Curriculum Development, Principles and Practice. He has presented so many papers and invited lectures in many national, international conferences, seminars, symposia, and workshops. He is currently doing a project, that is a major research project on digital literacy and techno-pedagogical practices of higher education teachers of Tamilnadu, funded by ICSSR Impress for about a grant of rupees 10 lakhs. He has visited so many countries on academic assignments like Singapore, Malaysia, and Bangladesh. He has contributed so much in the field of teacher education and educational technology. We are happy to have him as the resource person for this national webinar on Register of Research Communication. Thank you, sir. Now I hand over the session to Professor Sendil Nadan. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajalakshmi. Can you tell me whether my audio is clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, it's clear.
Someone's screen is being shared, I think. Right now, there is someone's screen is being shared. Anyway, you can set it right. So, Honorable Vice Chancellor and my long-term senior friend and colleague, Professor Panjanathan sir, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor of Adi Chunchanagiri University, distinguished scientist of our country, Professor Vairappa sir, esteemed Registrar of TNTU and ACU, Professor Balakrishnan sir and Dr. C.K. Subbaraya, and distinguished Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, ACU, Dr. Shivraman, the organizing secretary of the event, Dr. Rajalakshmi, and other friends from TNTU, and most importantly, the distinguished participants of this webinar. A very pleasant morning to every one of you. I deem it a great pleasure as well as privilege to associate myself with this exercise, focusing on research communication, especially the Register of Research Communication, which has been my area of interest, thanks to the fact that I have been working in education, basically an English language teacher, having done some work in journalism and mass communication. So these things together have given me always a special place for this type of talks. And I must thank sincerely the authorities of TNTU for giving me another opportunity to associate myself with a very renowned institution like ACU. In fact, quite a few years back, I had an opportunity to give a workshop to the Women's College at Kambam, and where I invited by the founder, chairman, Dr. Ramakrishnan, and I had the pleasure of staying there and conducting a workshop on digital learning for the teachers. And I think at that time, they introduced academic blogging to the students, and all teachers created blogs and uploaded their learning materials for anytime, anywhere access of the students. So I've had a couple of occasions to work with Adi Chunchanagiri, and I know the way in which the professionalism with which things happen. So with this brief words of introduction, let me go over to my presentation. And I'm very happy that Professor Panchanathan sir as well as Professor Bhairappa sir made a point, right, about the ways in which the research writing and research communication is of greater importance. And Professor Panchanathan sir was giving some data, right, compared with the researches that are going on in our country, the number of publications, right, if you work out the ratio, it is very minimal. It doesn't mean that we are second to anyone in the world in terms of conducting research, right? For ages, our country is known for high quality research, no doubt, right? And very scientific, very systematic, cutting edge technological researches have been going on. But as pointed out by Professor Panjanathan sir, our share in the international research communications, research publications, is very minimal. One important reason is probably that we are not fully trained in the art and science of research writing. That's my feeling. So, can anyone tell me whether my screen is shared? Can any one of the organizers tell me whether my screen is shared?
It is not. Sorry, sir.
It is. Right. Okay. Right. That's fine.
Okay.
So I would be happy if a couple of participants can tell me later when I'm going to finish the talk why particularly this particular picture, this image is chosen for the title slide. This particular image, okay? The bullseye, hitting the bullseye. Okay. So as already sir pointed out, the contribution, right, in terms of research publications has been minimal, for probably because of one reason that we are not giving importance to that training and research writing. And in fact, a state like Tamilnadu attempted it a couple of years back. They created some centers of academic and research writing in some identified universities, and Bharatidasan was one such university, and we have been providing some training, year-long training to the research scholars on the art and science of writing, research communication. So, in fact, in many countries abroad, right, Professor Bhairappa sir is here. He is a person with international research exposure. Many countries abroad, research scholars, whether it is MS or MPhil or PhD, right, or DEd, whatever it is, they are not allowed to go to the level of writing their research, preparing their research report without taking a compulsory course on research writing, the expository writing skills. But unfortunately, in our country, there is no doubt in our PhD, there is a coursework, right? And mostly a couple of papers on research methods, maybe a paper on statistical analysis, use of SPSS or R software, R program for analysis, right? And some papers are there for on the core papers, right, on the core area of research that the particular individual is doing, right? But no, maybe in research methodology paper, the last unit will be something about report preparation, research report preparation. And even within that particular unit, we see something about APA, something about MLA style, something about Chicago manual, right? And then how to go about working out with charts, figures, images, and all. But very less input is given about the language that is characteristic of research writing. Okay. And that is why I chose to speak on this register. Register is a technical term here that refers to the style of writing that is followed in research communication. Okay. You see, I would introduce you to another word. Can Ratishwari or Rajalakshmi tell me whether my audio is also clear? I can go ahead as such.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Okay, that's fine. Right. Okay. So the technical admin can just barge in if there is any fluctuation in my audio or in the movement of this slide.
Okay, sir.
Because when I move into the talk, we become more concerned with the content, right? So I'm introducing a new word that I can. You see, there's a word like researchees. Okay.
the ESE, that research is, that is typical of the language use. For instance, there are words like journalese, medicalese, and legalese. Right? So similarly, now we have something called researchese. I hope you can understand the meaning. I'm sure you will be in a position to guess. The word medicalese refers to the specific style of language used in medical records, okay?
Sir,
Medical
excuse me.
communication. Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah.
please change the slides, sir. It's showing the
No, no,
print.
no, no. I have not moved to the slide. I have not moved my slide at all.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm fully in control of the slides, madam. Don't worry. Okay, right. I'm yet to speak about researchese itself, right? Okay. So when you have a word like medicalese, right, which refers to the style of writing that is used in medical documentation, medical records. For instance, when you go to visit somebody who's taking a treatment in a hospital, I am sure you will go there, and near to the bed there will be a table, and on that, the case file will be placed. In fact, you and I as visitors are not supposed to read it anything, but still out of curiosity, we will just open and read something. And more than 60% of the content we will not know what it is. Right? Okay? But it is not actually a faulty communication. That writing, that communication is not meant for the visitors. It is meant for the junior doctors. It is meant for the nurses. Right? It is meant for the staff who are going to attend to the particular patient. Okay? So that is medicalese. So similarly, you have journalese, a language used in the field of journalism. It will say, right? 15 people feared dead in a road accident, it will say. Right? Why it is feared dead? Because a reporter is not authorized to declare the number of deaths, right, that happened in a road accident. It is the first unit chief, it is the dean of the hospital, particular headquarters hospital, has to say that it is these many people have passed away, right, due to the accident. So it is said 15 people, including 3 women, were feared dead in a massive road accident, right? So that type of language, and you say allegedly involved in a crime, right? 2 people allegedly involved. Because the newspaper uses a little careful language, because only 2 people have been arrested. They have not been tried in the court of law. They have not been punished. They have not been convicted. So they say 2 people who have been allegedly involved in some crime have been captured. Right. So like that. So like that, medically is legally. So legal documents. For instance, if you are conducting any litigation, right, and your lawyer may prepare a document, right, for you on behalf of you, right, but he will give it to you for just go through it and sign. When you go through, you may not understand 50% of it. Putting faith on the lawyer, right, that document is meant to be read by a fellow colleague, another lawyer, or a judge, right, a judiciary. So similarly, we have the language researchese, which is all about the typical style of language, right, to be used in research communication. Right? Okay. I would start with Francis Bacon. Not that I wanted to change the tide after listening to Professor Panjanathan sir. In fact, he highlighted the importance of reading. Right? In fact, there is no talk on writing that can go without reading. Please understand. Right? Okay. You see, it is reading that makes a full man. I quote Francis Bacon, and conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. That is very, very important. Where writing requires some exactness. So make note of this particular point. We are going to link it with the research writing a little later. Right? Writing gets, an exactness. It is very, very important, right? But please understand that reading is the input to all writing. The higher the amount of reading you do, the greater the writing you can do, right? So that's simple. So, as I was informed by Dr. Rajlakshmi, the participants are teachers, researchers, PhD scholars, MPhil scholars. So I just have some funny pictures, right, to show you how the research writing goes. I'm sure all of you see 2 images here. One image, a hand, right, with the pen, at the wrist. Somebody is putting the pressure. 2 people are pressurizing. Maybe one is the guide and the other one is the co-guide. Okay, and unless there is some pressure put on people,
right? They are not very happy in writing. Many occasions we see the guide is shouting at the candidate, why you cannot bring something for me to discuss, sir, I am working on this, sir. I have collected so much of literature, sir. I have done this one. You have done all that. Why not you bring it in writing to me? Let me go through whatever work you have done. So unless, even for that matter, I would say that, unless there is some API scores associated with publications, right? People are not going to write, right? Research writing, is such a tough task. It is not like writing lecture notes or something that is lighter. Okay? It involves a lot of work, and you see how unhappy this boy is, right? Because he knows well that if he is going to write 10 pages, his guide is going to return, right, with a note to revise, right? And at least 4 or 5 pages he is going to strike up and return to him, right? So that is what is the problem involved in writing. Why that happens is because a kind of a lack of deeper understanding into the nuances of research writing. So that is what I'm going to focus on. And you see here, right, how it feels when you write your PhD thesis, right? I hope all of you can see an image, right? Sometimes images don't get properly shared, right? I hope all of you see an image, right? It becomes too heavy, right? People so are unhappy about writing their thesis, right? Tomorrow I'll submit, sir. The day after tomorrow I'll submit, sir. Right? It happens like that. Now, why it happens is again because of a thorough training in the basics of the research writing. So I have another funny picture, right? Research scholars must not.
Changing, sir. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Slide is first slide only is there. It's not moving.
Oh, okay. So I will again close this and restart again.
Yes, sir. Please.
Is my screen shared now, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So is it moving to the next slide, sir?
Yes, first slide. Next.
Now it is Francis Bacon.
Yeah. Yes.
So okay, I think this was the funny picture I wanted you all to see. Right? How unless there is some pressure that is put on people, right? How they are not so very willing and ready to write research articles. Right? This was the funny picture I wanted you to see, and the other one I was showing was this: how it feels when you write your PhD thesis. Right? People feel so heavy. Right? Sir, I said I would submit tomorrow, but only about half of work could be completed, sir. I'm still finding it, sir, that I'm working on. That's how it is, right? So another funny picture I have, research scholars must not mistake, but this is what reality is, right? So the guide doing our thesis correction, right? I see the expectation is on this side, and the other side you see the reality, right? Now you can relax a little bit. You can be on the lighter side. You can be laughing a little, right? Because I'm going to give you something, a little heavy stuff, right, with your course, right? Okay. So this is the expectation, but the reality is this: why the gap is actually the lack of training, right? And the other day, I just had to give back an MPhil dissertation to one of my students, okay? And after going through the pages, turning the page after page. She was shedding tears. Sir, so many corrections, sir. Right? And I said, Ma, it is not that I have written it and you have written it and I have done the correction. Right? The mistakes are yours, right? Not that it is mine, right? Okay, but so many corrections I have to do, sir. Yes, you have to do if you want to make it a good MPhil level research work. There has to be mistakes to the level at which it is written. You cannot commit a mistake that student's internship report is different, and an MPhil scholar's dissertation is different, and a PhD scholar's thesis is something different. And when you publish a postdoctoral research work, that should carry that the value that is attached with that the stature of the research work that is being done. Okay, so that is why I always tell people that you should be sensitive to these things, right? Okay. So now, why it happens is because, the research writing is this type of a process. Okay. I hope all of you can the admin sir tell me that I have moved to the next slide where there is a funnel shape image. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Right. You see, it is 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years of research work. A lot of data you collect, a lot of work you do, so much of literature, so many research articles you have downloaded and read, you have analyzed, you have reviewed, right? All these things, have to be put there, and the distilled essence of all these works, some conceptual work, some research work, some data work, some laboratory data exercises, right? Your own reflection, your guides, views, viewpoints, right? And the doctoral committee members' views and opinions, all these things put together, the distilled essence of it should go into the thesis, should go into that 150 or 200 pages of print you are going to take. Okay. So that is the type of the process that involves. So naturally, condensing the whole content, right, and getting into such a document is a tough process, no doubt. I will not say that it is easy thing, but people are not doing. It is no doubt a work that involves some solid work, right? Some real reflection, and some amount of quality time, right? The quality of your research article is directly proportional to the amount of time you spend on it. The higher the time you spend it, the better is the output, and the higher the number of revisions you do, the better is the output. Right? The problem is that most of the time the scholars are not ready to do the revision. When the guide says revise second time, third time, or fourth time, right? We sometimes we know, oh my God, what is this guy expecting? Right? He has asked me all 4 times already to revise, and every time I go there, he says revise and resubmit. Right? What is he expecting? Okay, but please understand that research writing is 10% writing and 90% rewriting. Please understand. This is a kind of a formula we talk about in the media production industry. In the film industry, we speak this because with regard to film scripting, we always say it is 10% of script writing and 90% of rewriting the script, because so many changes will keep coming in as the film is getting produced. There may be a particular screen arranged, a particular short plan, but light may not work out. So they may move the entire scene to a morning. So instead of evening, it will become a morning scene. So they have to change the script a little. Like that, it will keep on changing. Right? So that is something that we have to understand basically. Right? And why I insist upon this particular thing, that is the essence of the distilled essence of all this work has to get into the 200 pages, 250 pages that go into the bound volume. Right? Is that the proof of the pudding is in the eating? There is a proverb in American English. Right? Why people say this is because most of the time, people say I have come across this quite a few times. Right? I'm sure senior professors like Dr. Panjanathan sir, Dr. Bhairappa sir, others have also, Shivaram sir have experienced this. People will come and say, "Sir, so much of work I have done, sir. That many, how many nights I have spent burning the midnight oil." Right? But finally, it is this rating. It is not highly commended for me. But for the other guy, less than 60% of the work I did, he did. But for him, it is highly commended. But for me, it is only commended. Why? Because you see, your assessment, right? The evaluator's assessment is what you have reported about your research, not the research that you have done. For evaluating the research you have done, you have your guide and co-guide, your head of the department, your doctoral committee, right? Okay. But for the evaluator, the examiner only evaluates what is the report that you have prepared, what you have written there. So if you have written well, then it is taken as reflecting a good research work that has been carried out. But after doing a very careful work, a very, very thorough scientific research, if the research writing is not scientific, systematic, and thorough, then the examiner takes it the other way around. That is why I always say, right, what do you do as a researcher is important in your laboratories, in your field work, but equally important is what you get into the 250 pages, right, between two bound covers, right? That is also equally important, right? Okay, so that is very, very important. And I would just start with this, general things like communication. So I'm not going deep into it. This is something we all know. This LSRW skills, listening, speaking, reading, writing. I want you to have a re-look at it from a different perspective. That is, this listening and reading are called the input skills or the reception skills. Right now, all of you are listening to me. So you are receiving some message from me. Right? So it is, and whatever I'm going to say, give you examples, they're all going to be inputs for your work. Right? And when you speak, right, some sound symbols are produced, right, as output, and it is production oriented. And writing is production oriented, writing something, right? Okay. So speaking and writing are the output and production skills. And what is more important is that listening is the input for speaking, and reading is the input for writing. Right? A person who has done a good amount of listening to very good speakers, very good speeches, can effectively speak. Right? And similarly, right, when you have done a lot of reading, right, you will be in a position to write better. That is why we say, right, why the guide asks you, right, at the first level, you read some dissertations, thesis already there, and write a review and bring it to me. Right? Okay? Why there is a review of related literature? Right? Because unless you go for a lot of reading, right, in that particular area of research on the key variables under study, on the methods that you are going to adopt, and you are not going to get any deeper insights into the work you're going to do. Otherwise, what will happen? Without reading enough research literature, you are going to do a work. You are going to end up with a work that is duplicating somebody else's work. Then you people say that the plagiarism report says that this has already been conducted, and whatever you have done, the same key variable, same type of tools were used, right? That sort of thing, right? Okay. So I'm just moving to the next one. So it's more specifically to the production skills. And I have put these two words, speaking and writing, in two diametrically opposite arrow marks, right? You see here, because of the simple reason that speaking is quite different from writing. You cannot speak the way you write, and you cannot write the way you speak. Okay. I hope you understand the point, right? For instance, when Dr. Rajalakshmi called me about a month ago, right? She called me over phone and said, "Sir, how are you, sir? How are things going at department HRDC, sir? Sir, we are planning for a workshop like this, a webinar like this. I request you to kindly be a resource person. Right? Can you make it, sir, this day, sir? Right? At this time, will it be okay, sir?" That is the type of speaking. But when she writes to me, right, on the letterhead of TNTU, right, when she writes to me, right, it's a altogether different documents, right? So she says two orders is put. After that is put, "Dear sir," right? Then there is subject. Then is greetings from TNTU Chennai, right? I am pleased to inform you that we, in collaboration with Adi Chunchanagiri University, are organizing, right, an event like this, and I request you to kindly serve as a resource person. It goes like this. So speaking is a different genre, different style, and writing is a different style. And as I told you, you cannot speak the way you write, and you cannot write the way you speak. Imagine Dr. Rajalakshmi is writing a letter like this, right? She is putting everything printed on a letterhead, right? It says, right, "Hello, sir, right? How are you? How are things going at Trichy? Right? We are planning to organize something like this, right? Can you come and deliver a talk, right, for 2 hours?" No, it will look very odd on a letterhead signed by her with a seal, right? And imagine she is speaking the way she writes. She is making a call to me and saying, right, "Dear sir, greetings from TNTU Chennai, right? We are pleased to inform you that we, in collaboration with Adi Chunchanagiri University, is organizing." Then I'll ask, "Come on, Rajalakshmi, what is wrong with you?" Right? Okay, be natural, yeah, I'll say. Right? So that is the basic thing we should understand. But if we see, the specific style of writing that is followed in research is the highest order of technical writing. Right? So where there cannot be any room for shades of meaning and other things. We are going to see the characteristics, right, one after the other. Right? Okay? So I want all of you to read it as quickly as possible. Though it is not a good practice to read from the slides, as a presenter, I'm not supposed to do that, because when it is presented to you, you can yourself read it. But still, for want of time, right, I would also choose to read it quickly, right, so that we will not be wasting, we'll not be spending too much of time allocated for it. Right? So it's a kind of a description of a human being in the style of Shakespearean language of theatre, drama, right? What a piece of work is man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. Okay? This is what is the way Shakespeare describes a human being. And here, there is another description, okay, of the human being. You know, here also it is what a piece of work is man. Here also it is man, right? The human being, right? No gender bias here. It is with a capital M used, right? So it is man is human being. So you see, read this. Man is a metazone, triploblastic, chordate, vertebrate, pentadactyl, mammalian, eutherian, primate. Okay. You see, this is Shakespeare's description, and this is taken from a research article, a scientific research publication. Okay? And if you understand the difference between these two, I think you have got the real point that I want to make about the research language, the language of research writing. Okay? And if you do a close analysis, right, you know, what is the way in which Shakespeare does. Right? I am sure all of you, if I just ask a question, can any one of the participants tell me what is the style of language used here? You will simply say it is very, very literary. It is very flowery, right? You know, and you know, this is scientific. Right? This language is scientific, and this language, the language style, language and style, the dictum, right, we call is used is right, very flowery, right, very artistic, right, very poetic. Okay? And very literary. Okay? That's right. This is scientific. This is plain. And you see, very simple point I would like to make is, see, research is scientific. Now, any research methodology book, in the first chapter, they will say, maybe first paragraph will say, research is a systematic and scientific process. So you see, when you do a research which is scientific and which is systematic in its process, how can you report it in unsystematic and unscientific ways? Right? As much as research is scientific and systematic, that much research writing is also systematic and scientific. Right? And you see, the most important part, right? Of course, if it is a face-to-face mode talk, I would ask all of you to speak, right? Can you just, can every one of you tell me what is the difference between these two things? And everyone will give me one difference, and we will put together all these differences and see how different is this literary style of writing and compared with research style of writing. But again, this being a virtual mode, right? I'm just going ahead explaining the thing, right? Now, the very fundamental difference is that, you know, here in this particular, when anybody reads this, there is a possibility of multiple shades of meaning that is communicated. I hope you are making myself clear. See, when you read Shakespeare's description of the human being, there is a possibility that you understand it in a different shade of meaning, which is quite different from the shade of meaning that somebody else doesn't. For instance, if 50 people read it, there can be 50 different meanings possible. It is possible, right? For instance, you know, a word like angel or a word like God, okay, a word like animals. No, it can give you different meanings, different mental images can be created by these words. For instance, a word like angel, right? No, for a boy or a girl coming from Christianity, right? It may mean something different, right? You know, and you know, for student, don't think that I'm talking religion and other things. These are all part and parcel of the communication, right? And you know, for somebody else, it may mean something different, right? For a 40 plus year old man like me, right, having been brought up in Tamilnadu culture, seeing Tamil films, the word angel may remind me of some 1980s films, 1990s films, right? When we used to have the heroines, right, in full white long coat, right, a long attire, right, just running around the trees with the hero, right? Maybe, you know, and you know, may not be there with the wings and all. Similarly, for a god, with the picture of God, right, you know, the word God can trigger different mental images to different people. Right? For every religion, it will have its own picture. Right? And for a person who is a non-believer in God, who is an atheist, it may not mean anything. Right? Okay. So that way, it can give different shades of meaning. But right, a scientific description like this, cannot give multiple meanings to different people. Even if 5,000 people read it, it can mean only one thing to all the 5,000. Right? Vertebrate, it has only one fixed meaning, and mammalian has only one fixed meaning. For everybody who reads it, it communicates the same. And if you achieve this in your research communication, right, then you get that point very, very clear. When people were introducing me, they were saying that I am a part of some editorial boards, right, and I am also a reviewer some articles, right. When we get articles for review, right, the types of the instructions given, especially from international peer review boards, right, it is something very, very important, right. Okay, and there is one thing that it says, right, is the meaning clear, right, and are there different multiple interpretations possible in the writing? If multiple interpretations are possible in your research writing, then it is not taken as a good paper, right? Because it is scientific communication, and it is technical communication, and it cannot mean different things to different people, right? Imagine if a doctor puts a note. Okay, now somebody is there in bed, and in the bedside table there is a medical record file, and the doctor, the surgeon, or somebody who visits the patient puts up a note, right? At 10 o'clock tonight, this injection has to be given, and at early morning 6 o'clock, this injection has to be given, and there may be two different shifts and two nurses may be there. And if that note he puts it, each nurse interprets in his or her own way what it is going to mean, right? It will be fatal to the particular patients, right? So that is where, right, the scientific technical communication becomes very, very, right, important in terms of accuracy in communicating the meaning in a single pointed focal content. Okay, so it is this particular thing that you should understand. Okay, sir, is the admin sir everything going fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's fine. Right. Okay. If there is anything that needs to be, you can just intervene right anytime. So, describe the writing styles. Right? Okay. Just I will be talking more about one particular style, but still I want to introduce you to the different writing styles that are available. See, the different types are the descriptive writing styles are there. Expository styles are there. Narrative styles, persuasive, argumentative, technical, literary, many styles are there. Right? For instance, yeah, imagine, for instance, the dean sir spoke about Adi Chunchanagiri University, right? How many campuses are there, how many institutions are there, and how it is being run. And the great gurus who are working behind that, it's all the way in which he is presented, it's all descriptive, right? Ours is a university having so many campuses and functioning in these many countries. No, it's a descriptive communication, right? Expository, we will elaborately see that it is that expository writing, expository style, which I am going to talk elaborately, as that is the research writing style that I am going to talk about. Then narrative. Okay. Narrative is, when I was also talking about it, right? When a couple of maybe about 6-7 years back, I visited Adi Chunchanagiri Women's College in Kampam. I stayed there for 2 days. We conducted a workshop, and all teachers created blogs. It's a narration, right? One after the other. We visited there, we stayed there, we trained. Then what happened next? What happened next? What happened next? Right? The narration, right? Narrative writing, right? Again, and there is something called persuasive, right? Persuasive writing. In any of your advertisements, okay, and any of your promotional documents, you will find persuasive. Right? You go to some private college or private school website, they say, why choose us? Right? No, ours is an institution with these things. Unique practices are these. So you put your child here, right? You admit your boy or a girl here. Right? That is a kind of a persuasive style of writing. And there is something called argumentative. Argumentative is mostly there in the legal documents, right? And even sometimes in a research document also, when you want to prove your point, maybe you're conducting an experimental research, and when you want to record that, after eliminating the effects of this, and this, right? This is my finding. So my conclusion is this. It is only because of this has happened. Right? So that's a kind of an argumentative. You're putting forth ideas one after the other. That is that of an argumentative writing. And there is something called technical writing. The technical is all about your science reporting. Go back to your schools and colleges, right? Maybe your what is that, record notebook writing, science experiments, right? All that is technical writing. Physics or chemistry practicals you write, okay? And you start with an assumption, an inference, some materials, then the method of the procedure of the particular experiment, right? So a 5 ml of the acid was taken, and 5 gram of this salt was taken, right? So it is all in the impersonal passive you write. You don't write, I took 5 ml of salt, 5 milligram of salt, I took 5 ml of acid, I heated it. You don't write like it is you who did it, but what you write, right? 5 milligram of salt was taken in a sterile tube, test tube, and 5 ml of this particular acid was mixed with it, and the mixture was brought to this temperature, right? That's the kind of writing you do. That's about technical writing. And literary, I just showed you, you had a look at it, right? Okay. But we will slowly get into expository writing. Expository writing is the specific style of writing used in research language, research reporting, okay? See, I'm not going into this APA format or Chicago manual and other things, because there is something related to the styles, reporting styles. But I am moving more into the writing, the research language that is to be writing. Whether you write in Chicago manual or whether you write in APA format, APA 6 or 7, right? It doesn't matter. It is going to be the same style of language that is expected. So expository writing, basically, it seeks to inform, right? Explain, okay, clarify, define, or instruct, objectives of any of these things. Information, explaining, clarifications, defining, instructions, all these things are brought under this expository writing. Right? And basically, expository writing assumes that the reader has some prior knowledge or some prior understanding of the topic that's being discussed, right? For instance, Professor Bhairappa sir was showing how much of citations have nearly 10,000 cited, which is such a huge number, right? Which is an unimaginable, right, number, right? So, when 10,000 people have cited his work, and at least 25,000, 30,000 people, a lakh people should have read it. And, as a writer, writing to a particular target group of audience, target group of readers, right? Professor Bhairappa sir knows very well that what these people know and what these people do not know. Okay. I'll give a little more concrete example. Okay, if one of you is doing some research on environmental protection, global warming, climate change, okay, and you are doing some research work there, and you are publishing papers, and maybe your local newspaper, the Hindu or the Times of India or the New Indian Express, they call you and they say, sir, we are planning to bring out a special supplement on the World Environment Day. And we came to know that you are a researcher in the field of global warming, and we want you to write an article on global warming. Okay? So you write an article for the New Indian Express or Times of India, right? And parallelly, you are writing another article for an international journal of environmental science and research. Okay, imagine there are two situations. One is write an article for a newspaper. Another one is an article for the International Journal of Environmental Science and Research. Both are on global warming. Okay? And here, can you make use of the same language which you use for the International Journal of Environmental Science for the article you are writing for New Indian Express or the Hindu? Can you do that? Right? No, you cannot do, because basically the readership matters. Right? Who are the readers of the Hindu, the Indian Express, the Times of India? Right? The district collector may be there, no doubt. His driver, his office people, housewives, right? Professors, doctors, scientists, everyone will be, right? And you have to write a different style of language about global warming. You might have done a great research, you might know many things about it, but you have to make it a reader-friendly article, right, for the common man. But imagine if you are going to use the same language that you choose to write for Times of India, for the article that is going to be published in the International Journal of Environment Science and Research, the reviewers will put a comment, the language is too preliminary, right? So, because who is going to read this International Journal of Environment Science and Research? This journal will be published only by environmental science departments, eco-biotechnology departments, right? That type of departments. And the professors, researchers, right, and PG students of environmental science, sustainable development, they are only going to read. Okay? And for them, global warming is a basic concept. You need not speak anything about basics. You can start at a higher level. Okay? So that is something that you have to understand. So for research writing, we know very well who are our target audience, and we also know another thing, that they know something already about the particular article or the particular concept that they're going to talk about, right? Okay, and then this is a kind of a picture, right? This is called expository writing cake. Of course, this is actually around 12:15 or so, right? Some of you are getting a little hungry. A cake may not be a welcome image here, right? Okay, but still, this is just for the purpose of illustration given here. This is taking the writing, especially the expository writing, at a passage level. Okay, passage here is not equal to a paragraph. It can be a section. Sometimes two paragraphs, or sometimes two smaller paragraphs, or one larger paragraph, one small paragraph can make up one unit, one segment of writing, right? It can mean, right? Okay. So when you look at this, you will understand. You see, what you see on the top is a statement, right? What you are going to explain. That at the if you go to the writing classes, right? The grammar classes, English writing classes, we would call that as a topical statement. In any segment, in any particular section of a paper, right? Yeah, there has to be a topical statement, right? That is one statement or a couple of statements sometimes, which introduce the topic, which introduce the particular concept that the entire passage is going to talk about. That's what is called as a topical statement. And then what happened, that is like a creamy layer. That's like the cream on the top layer. And then next comes a spongy cake, right? The reason why you are explaining it, right? People must be made to get aware as to why they should learn about that particular thing. Okay, that's why you have to mention the reason why you're explaining it. Then the examples, explanations, the real content, right? How you support what you're explaining, and how you tie it to your statement, and how do you reason it out, right? All the explanations can be. And the last, again, there is another layer of spongy cake here. What difference does it make? In other words, why is what you have explained very important, and how do your examples and explanations tie back to your statement and reason? Topical statement, it has to be linked to the topical statement. But you see here, you must understand, there are three layers of the cake here. It's a triple layered cake. Okay? Maybe if you take it as something like a vanilla or chocolate cake, right? On the top you have some vanilla cream. Then after that you have a sponge cake of the chocolate cake. Then again a layer of vanilla cake. Then again the final the base you have another, right? The chocolate cake. And can these sponge cakes, one layer of chocolate cake, one layer of vanilla cake, can they stand separately? Right? If there is nothing creamy to connect, these things will not make up a whole cake at all. I hope you understand that. Right? Okay? So when you place one layer of a chocolate cake and another layer of vanilla cake over it, to bridge the gap, to connect it, you should have some cream, right? You should have some cream to stick it together, right? And that is what we call as cohesive devices. You cannot have the segments of the text standing aloof from each other, right? There has to be proper connectivity, right? Proper linking, right? That's what we call as, technically in grammar, we call it as cohesive devices. Because a research article is a unified whole. You cannot have introduction separately, not connected to the methods. And when you have a 2 paragraphs about research methods, and when you move on to a next explanation of materials used, these things cannot stand apart from each other. They have to stand together. They have to be put together, linked in such a way with appropriate cohesive devices, so that they will make up a full unit of study, so that they will make a complete writing. What we call as the continuity, that sense of cohesiveness, that sense of proper linkage between the sections, different subsections. Right? All these can be achieved by using right linkers, what we call as linkers, right? Maybe, for instance, I'll go to that a little later. Okay. So the writing, the expositive writing, the characteristics of the expositive writing are: the first one is focus on the main topic. Right? The most important thing. I think most of the students, in my experience, in fact, to be very frank with you, if you come to my department and say that you have come to meet me, right, for joining PhD under my guidance, people will say, "Oh, Senthilnadana, you have to be careful, yeah." Right? He will he will squeeze you out. He will ask you to write several times the revisions and other things, right? So that is the type of comment you may get, because in my analysis of the research articles and the manuscripts submitted by my students, by these journals for review and all, is that the people don't understand how to continue to give the focus to the main topic. Okay? And the criticism that people put in the review is that there is a lack of focus in the writing. That is very important. You write something here, I think that, see, what is the main thing that you're going to do? Who has the time? Scientists do not have time, right, to read about all this, so many things about this, right? Okay. Sometimes I will give another example to you, right? Okay. Sometimes if you go to a doctor, right, maybe taking an elderly person in your family to a doctor, sometime last year you did some blood tests, and last 2 years before you took an ultrasound scan, but maybe you are the particular person is very important to you, so you have all these papers, the files, everything with you, and you want to show that to all the doctors, right? And the doctor just gets it, puts it on the table, right, and then goes to the latest blood report, maybe last week, right? Okay? And then he goes through it, because he knows very well that a 2-year-old ultrasound is not going to be anything here, right? Okay? And then when they write the case history also, right, only the discharge summary, they will have something about the particular individual is and so and so and so. Then they will be looking especially for the focal points, right? So there is DM, HT, there is diabetic mellitus HT, these things, the most important focal point. That's very, very important, right? So that's it, right? So focus has to be on the main topic. And where even when you interpret a medical report, right, something like an ultrasound report, right, what happens? They write so much about all these. In the final line, you will see in all capitals or bold, they will write impression, right? Grade 3 fatty liver, something like that. That is what is the focal point. But see, the prescription for the ultrasound scan has been given by a gastro person. So the sonologist, the ultrasound person, knows that this particular case has been referred by a gastroenterologist, right? This particular individual comes with these things. So the doctor's point of focus here is that he wants to rule out this particular thing, or he wants to ensure that it is because of this problem this is happening. Right? So like that, the focus has to be on the main topic. And of course, the details, explanation, the examples can be there, right? Enough it can be there. But only thing is, the details, explanations, examples, everything have to be properly linked with the main topic and the subtopics that are under discussion. You cannot deviate from the main topic. There cannot be a kind of movement away from the mainstream. Right? Now, I myself have written, and I have seen so many examiners writing this. Right? Now, in the second chapter, the third chapter, right, the focus is missing. Right? The investigator seems to have written so many things, right? But not that it is everything is linked to the research under his problem. Right? The problem under his study. Right? There is a kind of a lack of continuity and focus there. right? And if you want to achieve that, what you should plan for is a strong organization of ideas. This is what I was showing you. Right? Imagine this cake. You go back to the cake. Right? If you are going to have the chocolate layer and vanilla layer loosely connected, even you cannot carry that. Even you cannot take that cake in hand and eat it if it is going to be not properly, strongly organized with a proper layer of cream. It has to be placed on it, and there has to be another layer, and then only then you will be in a position to eat it. You enjoy that. Otherwise, if everything is going to come out, the moment you take your cake in your hand, right, or in your spoon, and separately the vanilla part comes out separately, and the chocolate part comes separately, and the cream part comes separately, and the topping comes separately, then what went, right? That bakery is a dirty bakery. You don't go there, right? Because the cake is not intact here, right? Okay. So strong organization is important. The ideas have to be organized in a very, very strong way, right? That is why if you go back to your school grammar, your English teachers, English language teachers might have told you that, there is an exercise called paragraph building. It's a building a paragraph. When you are, for instance, just look around the room where you are sitting. Right? If you want to call it a room, if you want to call it a building, it has to be organized in such a way. Right? Imagine in between one area where all the bricks are broken. Right? All the windows are broken. You will call it as a dilapidated building. You will not call it as a pakka wall. If there is something that has to be called a wall, right? The stones have to be placed in such a way, and it has to be plastered well. The cement has to be used to properly connect all these things, right? Okay. Otherwise, it will not be a kind of a well-built. It will not be. We will not call it as a well-built wall. Right? No, that is that wall you cannot depend. That building you cannot depend on that building because it's not well built. So that's why building a paragraph, building the ideas, right? Okay. Then if you organize your thoughts well, then what you get is a clarity of thought and expression. These are the two cardinal principles of research writing, right? Clarity of thought and clarity of expression. And here you may have a kind of a question, right? Whether which comes first, right? Whether it is the hen or the egg, okay, like that is the classical question, okay? And no, clarity of thought is very, very important. Of course, just to be on the lighter side, some, you might have experienced, politicians, they can be very clear in their expression. Clarity of thought. Okay, that is possible. That is a trick of the trade. And politicians are so eloquent in their speech. They would be very clear in their expression as to what they are speaking. But after all the talk, if you just do an analysis, what were the thoughts his particular talk carried? Then you may not have anything there. But still, it was a very flowery talk. Right? It was a very eloquent speech. Right? No, that's it. But what is important here is a clarity of thought, which results in clarity of expression. Okay. But the problem here is that, for instance, right now I have arranged my talk in such a way that I have put certain things in certain order, like what I should speak first and what I should speak next. Right? And if I myself lack this clarity of thought, I don't think I can be good in my presentation. Right? Okay? But sometimes the problem with the research scholars is that they have the ideas, the thoughts are good, the work has been done well, the research ideas are good, the scientific findings are good, but the lack of expression leads to a total kind of a cloudy picture of the entire picture. The entire paper that comes after a good research looks very, very muddy, right? It looks very, very, right, unscientific. But whereas the work that has been done has been well done, but it has not been well presented. That leads to the problem. And there are two more things that are connected to this. One is called unity. Right? In some literary style, we call it as unity of thought, and there has to be a kind of unity of thought and expression. Right? And if you want to achieve that unity between thought and expression, right, you can achieve it only through a proper coherence of ideas. Right? Coherence, the flow. What I earlier used an expression, cohesive devices. Some languages, some sentences, some phrases, some clauses we use in our writing to ensure a kind of a coherence, right? To ensure a kind of a continuity. Okay, and we have to achieve all these things. And what is more important is that in any research writing, the simplest thing expected is a logical ordering of things. Okay? I will again give you an example: environmental pollution, something like that, right? Okay. If there is something about global warming, you're writing an essay, right? Imagine it is a general essay you're writing. Even in a general essay, let us not talk about research writing. Even in a general essay, imagine you are given 2-3 pages of an essay. Okay, it is on global warming. Then you start reading, and the first paragraph is about the ill effects of global warming on the earth, how it damages the human beings' health, what are the problems to this flora and fauna, this and that. After that, what is the damage it has done to the different species in the world? Next paragraph. And the next paragraph explains what is global warming. Okay. And the next paragraph explains how to what to say, avoid global warming. And the last part, the last reasons for global warming. You know, when you go through that, you will find that there is so much of jerk. The flow is so bad. Say, what is this, right? He is explaining global warming only in the second page, but in the first page, first paragraph, he is talking about ill effects. Actually, this should come here. Okay. So when you're writing general essay on global warming, you know, the first part should deal with what is global warming. The second part should deal with what are the reasons. Then the third part should deal with what are the ill effects. And then next one should deal with what are the ways in which we can avoid global warming. And maybe the last part should end with some action plan. No, only then it's a kind of a logical order. There has to be some logical flow of ideas. Right? You cannot talk about the results and then later about the causes. Right? So, and then you can talk about the basic concepts. It cannot be there. So, when you handle a class, why is it that the five units are there? Right? And then, you know, first unit comes first, second unit comes next, third unit comes next. Why it is? You know, it is selection and gradation. We select certain topics to be taught to the students, and then we grade them from simple to complex, right, from general to specific, like that. You know, we arrange them in an order, and behind that ordering, there has to be some logical thinking behind it. Right? And you know, in a research article at the doctoral level or the postdoctoral level or an MPhil level, you cannot have a single idea. There will be too many ideas will be there. And when you have your writing, research writing coming on too many ideas, too many concepts, too many viewpoints, too many perspectives, you should ensure that from movement from one perspective to the other perspective has to be done in a very, very smooth way. And you know, we have to arrange certain writing arrangements in such a way that the transition from one to the other happens in a very, very smooth way. And you know, that smooth transitions are achieved by using appropriate cohesive devices, appropriate link words, link sentences, and link classes. Okay? You know, there's something called, you can make note of this website, traceorman.com. I have just taken only one screenshot of this particular thing, only about 2-3 things, but for other things, you can go there and see. So for the transitional words and phrases, informative and explanatory text. If the text is explanatory text and informative text, right? What are the things you can? If you are going to clarify a point, see, you have made an observation, and the next sentence you are going to clarify that point, right? So maybe you can express like something like obviously, of course, right? You know, after all, right? As can be expected, and you know, if you want to show relationships between two ideas, two concepts, two phenomena, right? Maybe you can use expressions like identically, comparatively, correspondingly, likewise, right? Similarly, right? With reference to, right? These type of phrases will go with the purpose of showing the relationships. You know, there's something called language functions. Okay, because you know, this expression with reference to is has one function, that of establishing the relationship. Okay, and you know, for instance, as an illustration, next one, furthermore, for example, for instance, okay, moreover, in addition, right, besides, right, similarly, right, you know, these things are basically meant for linking two different ideas, right, two different ideas. Right? So that is about this thing. And similar, these are flashcards. These are flashcards available, right, on this such grammar portals, Grammarly portals and all. You can have exposure to. And I will also show you at the last slide, I think I have put some web resources for you to learn more about research writing. They also have that, right? Okay. So now, what I will do here is, can any one of the participants tell me I am making myself clear or not? Because I am going to talk about some 5 patterns of expository writing now.
Sir, it was
Admins.
Very clear, sir.
so very
Okay,
clear,
that's
but the
fine, right?
slide is not changing, sir.
It's very clear. Wonderful, wonderful explanation. Please carry on.
Okay. And now for that girl who has some difficulty, can the admin tell me whether the screens are properly moving?
Not present in the writing characteristics only, sir.
Okay.
Post
After that, I would again. Now, sir, is it in some other slide?
No.
Same slide.
Okay. I would do one thing. I would stop presenting and restart my presentation. So now is my screen shared, sir?
Yes, sir.
So is it moving to the next things?
No. Only a blank.
Okay. One second. So is it on that characteristics of expository writing, sir, now?
Yes, sir.
So now is it moving to another one? Transitional words and phrases?
No.
Now it is going to expository writing patterns?
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe I'll do one thing. That was a picture which I have placed it on the PPT. I will share that as a separate file to you. Right? So I would do one thing. The entire PPT I would share with Dr. Rajalakshmi, who in turn can forward it to you. And for those of the participants who are interested, you can share also. There's nothing wrong. Right? Okay. And because these things which I'm going to talk now, these 5 patterns of expository writing, it will be good if they take a printout and do an analysis. Right? Level dissertation or a postdoctoral research report, it doesn't matter. Whether you're writing to a local journal or whether you're writing to maybe a journal of a Springer publication or something like a Nature group of journals. Right? Professor Bhairappa sir might have published, right, in a Nature group of journals. Right? Scientists say, right, especially this science people say that if you publish a paper in Nature, it's a journal, and the next day you can very happily die because you have achieved what you can do in your life because one of your papers is published in Nature journal, right? That is the thing they say. So it doesn't matter whether you write to a local journal or whether you write to an internationally renowned journal. It doesn't matter. These are the 5 patterns of writing that are largely used in your expository writing. Okay, and for each one I will give a small passage, and this passage is not from any particular science area. It is from a very general one, because I know some of you may be from social sciences, a couple of you may be from education, right? So I didn't want to present anything that is specific to one field, which others may not find it relevant. So I have chosen from a general reading only. So the first one is description. So where it is basically listing the characteristic features, the examples, and the keywords are something like the examples, the characteristics are. So I have a short paragraph here. Again, for want of time, I will read it. Otherwise, in fact, reading from the slides is not a good practice of any presenter. Okay, we are not supposed to speak. When you can read it yourself, I should not read. But anyway, for one, I will do this. Okay. And get a copy of PPT. You can do an analysis. I will tell you what type of an analysis will help you understand it better. Okay. You see, this is about general interest topic. The Olympic symbol consists of 5 inches. The rings represent the 5 continents: Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, and South America, from which athletes come to compete in the games. The rings are colored black, blue, green, red, and yellow. There has to be a comma after black. The rings are colored black, blue, green, red, and yellow. At least one of these colors is found in the flag of every country, sending athletes to compete in the Olympic Games. Okay. And can any one of the participants unmute and tell me what is this passage about? Quickly. Kindly make it fast, right? Others are waiting. I'm left with another. Please. Yes, someone has unmuted. Yeah, please.
It's about Olympic symbol, I guess.
It's about the Olympic symbol. Excellent, right? Okay. Thank God that it didn't say about Olympic, because in any writing workshop I have put many places I have seen people will say it's about Olympics, sir. Right? That you have to right? Because you have gone straight into the point. It is about the Olympic symbol. It's not about the Olympics. It is about the Olympic symbol. But you see, this is what I want you to focus. See, the topic that the passage explains, it is the Olympic symbol about which the entire 6-7 lines are written. So you see, look at the first phrase. The first phrase of the entire passage is the Olympic symbol. No, that is hitting the nail on its head. Okay. So there is no mincing words, there is no roundabout ways, there is no beating about the bush and roundabout ways of saying. Call a spade a spade. So I am giving one beautiful proverb that goes with writing. Right? Call a spade. Make it as clear as possible. The Olympic symbol consists of 5 interlocking rings. Okay, that's it. Starts with it, right? And you see, look at the last word of the first line. Last word of the first sentence. First phrase of the second sentence. Okay, rings. The rings. This is what I refer to you as continuity. Okay, this is what is called as the unity of thought. Okay, so the Olympic symbol consists of 5 interlocking rings. Okay, oh yeah, 5 interlocking rings. So what are they meant for? So what are they for? Okay, any human curiosity is that. Yes, they have interlocking rings. So what do they mean? Okay, then it answers the question. The rings represent the 5 continents. Okay, and the 5 continents are introduced by a hyphen: Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, and South America. Okay, now the next question is, okay, there are 5 continents, and why there are 5 rings? There are 190 countries, there can be 193 rings there, right? But why it is 5 rings, right? So next answer comes, from which athletes come to compete in the games. So in Olympic Games, there is at least one representation from every continent. Okay. Then, for any person reading it, the curiosity is the rings are colored black, blue, green, red, and yellow. Okay. Yeah. Why they are red? Each one is there any reason for that? Okay. No, it is about the Olympic symbol. Olympic symbol consists of 5 interlocking rings. So there are 5 continents. From every continent, participants are there. So represent the 5 continents it is there. Then why are they colored like this? Black, blue, green, red, and so at least one of these colors is found in the flag of every country, sending athletes to compete in the Olympics. If 153 countries are there, sending their athletes to the Olympic Games, and one of these colors is there in their country's flag. So these 5 colors are there in the flags of every country that is sending people sending athletes to the country. You know how it is. I want you, the participants, to do a small analysis back in the home when you get a copy. You take this passage and try to remove a part of the sentence or a sentence or a few words or a class, right, without losing the total meaning. Without losing the total meaning of the passage, I don't think you can remove even a single phrase or half of the sentence away from this. If at all you can remove, only the 5 continents names you can remove, right? That is actually a kind of a more explanation, okay? Because the 5 continents, what are the names? If at all you think that, you know, for an adult learner who already knows these names of the continent, that is a true preliminary, yes, you can do that, right? Okay? Otherwise, anything more than that, you cannot remove it at all. Okay? This is what I want you to understand. This is the type of unity, coherence, right? The continuity, right? The strong organization that is expected in a research activity. So the second one is sequencing, right? Sequencing. Have I moved to the previous slide, right? Has the movement happened for the previous slide? Sequence.
Still in description.
No.
You were in description, sir, at present.
Sequence. Next one, is it moving to sequence?
No. Still on the same slide.
Yeah, one slide. Teams. I have shared an entire screen. That is normally we do in Microsoft Teams. Is it now on sequence?
No, sir. Still in description only.
There is something that obstructs the slide movement, I think.
Yeah.
Now it has moved to sequence now?
Oh, no, sir. Yeah, first slide only. Okay. Yeah, please move, sir. Sequence. Yes, sir. Sequence.
Yeah. Okay. So, now the second one is sequencing. Right? You know, please understand, it all involves descriptive, narrative, everything. All these are the different styles involved in exposition. And you know, while writing about your tool development, while writing about the experiment that you conducted, right, you have to naturally go to sequencing mode, sequencing style of writing. Okay? So I read this passage for you again quickly and see how that narrative style is formed. Right? You see, the Olympic Games began as athletic festivals to honor the Greek gods. The most important festival in the to honor Zeus, the king of the gods. It was this festival that became the Olympic Games in 776 BC. These games were ended in 394 AD by the Roman emperor who ruled Greece. No Olympic Games were held for more than 1,500 years. Then the modern Olympics began in 1896. Almost 300 male athletes competed in the first modern Olympics. In the games held in 1900, female athletes were allowed to compete. The games have continued every 4 years since 1896, except during the World War II, except the Second World War. Okay? You see, this also, though there is no much to explain here because you know about it. Please understand, our objective is not to know about the Olympics. Our objective is to analyze how the writing goes here. Okay, and I would request you, the participants, to do an analysis. The whole history of Olympic Games, starting from 1896 to till date. I think next another 10 days down the line, we are going to start the current year's Olympic Games, right? Okay. So till now, right, the whole history of Olympic Games, right? Can you write it without by removing any of these things? Okay? And you know, the milestones are all presented here. So from which year it happened, when during which time it was not being there, right? And which year the female athletes were allowed. So important milestones are also presented here. So I request you to see if you can remove a couple of sentences or parts of sentences from this particular passage without affecting the whole meaning. That is the whole history of the Olympic Games. Right? Okay. So that is the type of exercise that will help you to understand better how to do the sequencing. What comes first? What comes first? What happened next? What happened next? Right? Okay. So it is that very important. As I told you, research is systematic activity. So what should be done first has to happen first. What should happen next? What should happen next? I will say even a recipe book. Okay, even a recipe book is a systematic writing, right? Because the style of writing used is expositive writing. So if you want to prepare a nice payasam, right? A nice a tasty food, right? You read a book or you read from a website, right? Okay, the ingredients required and the process of preparing it, right? So they say step one this one, step two this one, step three this one. So before starting to work, these are the things you should keep it ready. And if the steps go in a haphazard manner, right? Ultimately you're not going to get the good food that is tasty, right? So that is very important, right? So the next two patterns, right? Has it moved to the next slide?
Still in sequence only, sir. Yeah.
Comparison, cause effect.
No, sequence. Still in sequence.
Yes.
So I would use. So I think we have to use some indigenous technology of closing and restarting again. Okay.
Sudarshan, can you find out what is the problem?
So now is it comparison cause effect? The screen is shared.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But it is still.
A table with comparison cause effect.
Yes, sir. Next, sir.
Is it now comparison?
No. It's still in exploratory writing patterns.
Yeah, it is comparison, cause and effect, I guess.
Yes, sir. Comparison now.
Comparison now? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So there is a paragraph comparison. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. So the third important pattern of expository writing is comparison. You see, in any research, we attempt to do comparisons. Am I right? Right. When a commerce person or a management person is doing some research on marketing, consumer behavior, this and that, there is a lot of comparison in a survey. You compare it with male buyers, female buyers, elderly buyers, younger buyers, right? Buyers from the salaried class, buyers from the rich class, right? Buyers from rural backgrounds, urban backgrounds, a lot of comparison. Right? Only by comparing something with the other one, you come out with some findings about this is the behavior, this is what is happening. So in your experimental research in education also, you do a lot of comparison, right? So students are presented with content in traditional mode of classroom teaching, chalk and talk model, compared with another approach, compared with the task-based learning, compared with the problem-based learning, compared with scenario-based learning, comparison between classroom-based chalk and talk model with that of game-based learning, right? It's all these things, right? And you look at the way, right, how comparisons are normally reported. You see, I will read again right from beginning, right? So first one, you see, the modern Olympics is very unlike the ancient Olympic Games. You see here, look at the starting line. So the very first statement, again hitting it on the nail, right, on its head, right? So the very first phrase is the modern Olympics. Okay. So the very word modern, it tells you that it is a new type of Olympics and is very unlike. Okay. You see the word unlike, unlike is not learned. So there are two Olympic games. One is the modern Olympics and the other one ancient Olympics. And it is very unlike. There are a lot of differences. And look at the second short sentence. Individual events are different. Okay. Look at the word unlike, different again. You see, just two sentences we have seen, and we have seen four phrases highlighting that it is comparison. The modern Olympics, the ancient Olympics, two extreme, and words like unlike, different, right? There if they're pointing to the fact that that is being compared, right? Then next one you start look at the chart. While there were no two scenarios just post here, right? So there were no swimming races, right, in the ancient games, but instead they had chariot races, okay? And there were no female contestants, okay, in the ancient games, and all athletes competed in the new. You see, so of course, the ancient and modern Olympics are also alike in many ways. So when you do a comparison, then it is not only pointing out the differences. So when you compare, you have to bring in the similarities also. So what they say, of course, are also like in that is, some events are the same. So even in Olympic Games in 1896, discus throw was there. 2021 also is there. Okay, so are the same. Some people say that cheating, professionalism, and nationalism in the modern games are a disgrace to the Olympic tradition. So some people say that in modern doping, this and that, a lot of cheating is happening. But there were cases of cheating, nationalism, professionalism, their Olympics also. Right? So it is not something that the even those days there were such cases were there. Yeah? Again, of course, if you do a very critical thing, there are some words which you can remove here. Retain the original meaning. For instance, of course, the ancient modern Olympics are also alike. There, that link phrase, of course, can be removed, no doubt. But with, of course, it is still better, right? That's all, right? Because that's very simple. You see, it's a simple idea, right? Of course, no doubt the meaning will be conveyed. But with that phrase, of course, it is still better, right? Okay, that's all. And maybe if you do a very thorough analysis, right, cheating, nationalism, and professionalism are these three words are placed in two places, two places. It is found in two places, and it can be made, it can be rewritten in such a way that similar modifications can be done. But I did not do this some passages, right? So the author of the passage is somebody else. So I didn't want to remove my own, right? Okay, I just purposefully put it there as it is, so that if I am given an opportunity to rewrite it, I will do without, of course, right? Again, or maybe instead of course, I will write interestingly. The ancient and modern Olympics are also alike in many ways. Okay, we can write like this. Okay? So it is possible, right? So the next one is cause and effect. Have I moved to the next slide? Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Have I moved?
Yes. No, sir.
Okay, I will. So there is no other goal. This is a kind of a strategy we have to adopt now. Okay.
Still in comparison only.
Yeah. I could have done one thing. I could have sent the PPT to you earlier so that you could have done the task. But even now we can do that. We'll try for another 2 slides. After that, we'll do that. So is it now cause and effect?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Cause and effect.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Probably a little bit of time delay is there. That is what I understand, right? It takes a little bit of time delay, right?
You are right.
So, yeah, right. It sometimes happens in a browser-based virtual meet. That it happens. So, coming to cause and effect, you see, all research is linking cause and effect. Am I right? Okay. In any research, whether it is science or scientific or medical or social science, it is all because of doing academic achievement of the students has gone up, right? And because of the problem-based learning method that was adopted, you come to a conclusion that you say PBL is very good, right? PBL works well with mathematics, physics, chemistry. Right? And if the conventional group students and the experimental group students do not differ much significantly in their academic achievement scores, you say that PBL and chalk and talk model both seem to be having the same effect like that. I mean, like in academic research or anything for that goes with research conducted by ICMR also. You see, today in this pandemic time, all of us know a lot about this. Every now and then you have analysis reports are published, or even media industry doing that, right? You see, in Covishield, right? Sputnik V, what is it doing, and how the gap between first dose and second dose, and when you have a third dose, whether the efficiency will go up or not. Compared with Covaxin, what is the way in which it works? That an mRNA-based technology, when it comes, right? Pfizer's or something else comes out, what it is going to work out. It's all cause and effect, right? Okay. And look at the way in which a simple cause and effect is reported here. Okay. See, several reasons why so many people attend the Olympic Games or watch them on television. Okay. You see here, it is about cause and effect. So it's all about establishing the reasons with results. Okay. And here is an effect. That is, so many people attend the Olympic Games and so many people watch the television. Okay. And why is it? The reasons. So it is about reasons, and look at the first part of the sentence itself. That itself says there are several reasons why so many people attend the Olympic Games or watch them on television. And one reason is tradition. Okay. One reason is tradition. Very simple, because Olympics are traditional games. For many years they have been going on, right? So both elderly and the young people want to see, Olympics, so much of talk is there, right? And so everybody is saying, the chief ministers are announcing 5 crore awards for those people who will bring medals. And people say that anybody coming with a gold medal will get this much. So what youngsters want to know, and the elderly people want to just continue with the old tradition. My school days, when I was a school boy, right? I think that Olympics in that country was hosted, and I remember still, right, an Indian just getting us only one bronze medal, something like that. That is one reason, tradition. The name Olympics and the torch and the flame remind people of the ancient games, right? So it takes them backward, and they are very happy, right? And people can escape the ordinariness of daily life by attending the Olympics. Another reason is that every day we keep doing this and that, same type of things. So at least for some time, every evening we will come and watch Olympic Games, some events, some discus, some 400-meter relay, this and that, right? Again, and the next one is they like to identify with someone else's individual sacrifice and accomplishment. Right? You see, this just yesterday I was reading somewhere, right? From out of 7 athletes going from Tamilnadu, from India, 2 are from my place, Tiruchirappalli. Okay, so I'm proud, right? 2 athletes are from the same place which I belong to, right? Tiruchirappalli. That's it, right? In fact, Dr. Rajalakshmi will be having a higher level of pride because it is her birthplace, right? At least I'm a Coimbatore, right? So it is that, they like to identify with someone else's individual sacrifice and accomplishment. So when somebody, right, from Mysore does it, right, when an athlete from Mysore wins a medal for India, right, all Mysoreans, they become so happy, they identify them with an accomplishment. So national pride is another reason, right? And an athlete's or a team's hard-earned victory becomes a nation's victory. Right? And then the national medal comes, and people keep track of how many medals their country's athletes have won. People will say, so last athlete we only won 13 medals together, and this year at least we should go to 50 or 20, right? That type of medal counts and this and that. Right? Often there is a comparison. A small country, just like a state, one of our states has got so many medals, but now we are a big nation with so many crores of people, but we cannot win. No, such comparisons come. All of these comparisons come because of the importance we give to the medal counts, right? Right? So what are the effects and what are the causes, right? How they mentioned it here, right? Okay. So the final one is the problem and solution. So I will wait for a second. So can the admin tell me whether it has moved to the next slide, problem and solution?
No, sir. It is still cause and effect.
Is it now problem and solution?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, can Rajalakshmi just share the one who is controlling me? So as I keep talking, I will just forward that PPT so that the next part you can present from the admin log, so that the time delay and these problems will not be there. Can you do that, Mrs. Rajalakshmi? Okay, anyway, we will do that, right? Meanwhile, you can put it in the WhatsApp page to me. So coming to the next one, the final one is this problem solution. Please understand, the problem is a word that goes with research. We all know that. Okay? And, it is all the research problem, and through research we would like to provide solutions. I mean, right? All research is meant for providing a solution. Okay, and all research is because of some problem. So without that, it doesn't matter. If there is no problem, there is no research at all. Right? There was some problem with Covaxin. That is why there was research on Covishield. Right? And there was again some problem with Covishield. That is why there was research on mRNA technology. Right? Okay. There is no problem. There is no research at all. Okay. So while reporting research in terms of the problem and solution, what is the type of language that we can use? Right? Okay. This is one. Right? As I told you, the topic is very important. Right? You see, when I say that it is problem and solution, you see a lot of okay. And again, specific, not with the Olympics, the entire Olympics, but with the modern Olympics. To the Olympic Games, but only the problem linked with the modern Olympics. One problem with the modern Olympics is that it has become very big and expensive to operate. This is a problem statement. Right? What is the problem? That it is become a big event, right? And it is expected at least 1 lakh people will be participating, right? The referees, the match referees, all these the officials, the athletes put together, not less than 1 lakh people. It's very big and expensive to operate. Okay? How? Next part explains what exactly is the immensity of the problem. You see here, the city or country that hosts the games often loses a lot of money. The real problem is not that the Olympics is big. If Olympics is big and we are not bothered about it, because if we are not going to host, it's bothered. Right? The problem is that when we choose to be the host nation for the Olympics, we lose a lot of money. How money is lost? What happens to the money? How money is lost? Right? A stadium, pools, and playing fields must be built for the athletic events. So we have to build the stadiums, swimming pools, playing fields, right? And must be built for the athletic events, and housing is needed for the athletes who come from around the world. So for international standards, we have to have the as accommodation, right? Now all these things are okay. Spending money on these things is not very serious problem. The problem becomes only because facilities are used only for 2 weeks. The real problem is that. Okay? We don't mind spending money for building stadium, building a apartment for accommodating all these people, several apartments. But the problem is after 2 weeks, nobody will be there to use it. Right? So this is the problem. Only 15 days Olympic Games are conducted. Right? So this is the problem. And you see second part of it. Okay? Right? In 1984, Los Angeles solved these problems. In Los Angeles, companies who wanted to be featured on the game. Sponsorship. When in 1984, the Los Angeles Olympic Committee introduced it. So companies like McDonald's paid a lot of money. Okay. So they paid a lot of sponsorship money. So they advertising boarding in the inside the galleries, inside the play fields, right, on the road, everywhere. Okay, and for that they paid money and they became official sponsors. And another solution that they worked out was many buildings that were already built. So instead of building all buildings, new buildings, already some unused buildings were there, so they also used it. Many buildings that were already built in the last they were also used. Okay, so you see, understand all these five passages. I would tell you that you try to analyze it critically. Critically, in the sense, try to see whether you can remove any passage sentences or parts of sentences which don't affect meaning. Right? Okay. So I don't think you can do that easily because it is a very, very well organized paragraphs, passages you have seen here. Right? Okay. So now it is about 1:17 or so. I am left with another 20 minutes. Right? As I was told that I can go up to 2 hours. Right? So I would just throw some light on some of the characteristics of language research. So have I moved to the next slide? No?
No, sir. No, sir.
I would. Can the admin tell me, sir, your mail ID? I would just PG video.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me your mail ID, sir, quickly.
BGSCE.
BGSE.
At ACU.
ACU.
.edu.
.edu.
.in.
.in. So that is BGSE. That is B for bag, G for green, S for school, E for education.
Yes,
am I
sir.
right? BGSE, only four letters.
Five, sir. BGSCE.
Oh, College of Education. Okay.
College of
Okay.
So,
ACU.
.edu.in.
Got it. So I just now I am sending that PPT. I request you to kindly present it from your end.
Okay. Sudarshan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Please download it and present it.
Okay, sir.
From my mail ID senthilnathan@bdu.ac.in. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, meanwhile, we will let it get attached. Meanwhile, we'll go ahead with that. So now it is language of research, Mr. Sir.
Mostly take another around 15 seconds. Yes, sir. Language of research.
Yeah. So I would go with explaining this as it gets attached.
So we are not
the images and all. Yeah, it will. I am yet to send it, sir. I will just complete this and go. It is getting attached.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So the language of research is technically, I quote one linguist by David Crystal, who said it's a language apart. It's a different type of language. That's what we call as a register, right? It's a medical register, legal register, right? A journalism register, like that. You know, it is a typical register that is used only in research writing. And three important aspects of it is: one, it is goal directed. Okay? Goal directed in the sense, what purpose for which it is written, it should be the key point here. If your purpose is to inform, it should only inform. If your purpose is to explain, it should explain. If the purpose is to illustrate, it should illustrate. Okay. If the purpose is to present a case, it should present a case. It is goal directed. Okay. Every segment of the text is goal directed. What for that particular passage is being written. If the unit, if that particular section is description of the research tools, okay, and the language has to be descriptive, right? There cannot be any other language used, right? And if there is a section development and validation of the attitude scale, then the language has to be narrative, because you are going to explain what did you do first, what did you do next, what did you do next, what did you do next, right? Finally, I did the item analysis after doing the piloting. Then I did the validity, reliability coefficient. I arrived from alpha. I got it, and this is how I got the final standardized tool. So it is goal directed, and the next one is business like. Okay, business like is not a good value in personal relations. Okay, in interpersonal relations, we cannot be business like, right? Because much more than all this business, we have to be good friends, relatives, right? But here you have to be business like, right? There are no unnecessary formalities, unnecessary roundabout ways of explaining something. That is why I gave you a small proverb: call a spade a spade. You make it straight, make it simple. Right? If the passage is about a problem in the Olympic Games, you start with that. One problem with the modern Olympics is that it is big. Okay, it's not expensive, right? That's how, right? And the next one is unornamented. There is no ornamentation, all these things. Ornamentation is all a part of artistic writing, literary writing. ARTIS, artistic writing. Okay, or literary writing. But this is plain scientific writing, and there is no scope for any ornamentation. And all your adjectives and adverbs, right? Lovely, excellent, right? This type of lavish words, that you make use of, you should stop with your acknowledgement. Okay, in your research report, whether it's a dissertation or a thesis, that should stop with acknowledgement, because acknowledgement is a place where you can tell all types of lies. Okay, right? Because many times the guide and the candidate might have been quarreling like anything, right? But in the acknowledgement, the candidate will say, right, it was such a great opportunity to work under such a graceful guide, right, who was kind enough to spare his valuable time, this and that. So that's why I say acknowledgements are places where you can tell any number of lies. Okay, but there you stop all your ornaments and all your ornamentation, literary words and all. No words can explain, right, the amount of gratitude I have for the principal of the institution. Then if you don't have any words, then why do you write? Right? Okay, because this is all about very euphemistic ways of saying that, right? No words can adequately thank my guide for the good work you have done. He has a guide, it is his job to do that, and he has done the work, right? That's all, right? Okay, so that type of a language, there is no space in the content of the report. Okay, and the next one is, it is targeted to a specific group. As I repeatedly was telling you, this particular dissertation or a thesis, you are going to put it in a library, and not that it is going to be in a public district library where anybody, a housewife or an auto rickshaw driver, a cab driver, or a district collector or an officer is going to read. Only research community is going to read it, so it is targeted to a specific group. And it has to be free from any type of ambiguity. There cannot be any vagueness. There cannot be any ambiguity. See, research is about clear-cut work. So if it is, that's why I have explained it further with the second point, with the next point, with the precision of scientific equation. Right? If a plus symbol is there, it only means addition, right? Or if under plus, if you put a minus symbol, it can mean something else. It can be a little different. And if you just a little align that plus symbol, if it becomes an into mark, it leads to multiplication, right? So with the precision of scientific equations, your language has to be there, and it has to be a clear and the language has to be clear and candid. Clarity is very, very important. At the same time, we have to maintain certain candid level of building our argument. Okay? I know when our argument will become candid, very strong, right? When you have research evidences, very strong research evidences, your arguments will be strong, right? And when you have enough research reviews, right, that say yes, right, the problem-based learning can lead to better mathematics achievement, then you can support it with the research literature and say yes, PBL is quite good for enhancing higher order thinking skills, right? And task-based language teaching is quite good for developing communication, like that, So it all depends on the quality work you do. If you have done a high quality work and you become more authentic in your work, and naturally you become more strong in your writing, and authentically you can say, yes, this is happening because of this, right? Okay. So let me now send that. Sir, I have sent that mail.
Okay, sir.
So can you just download it and present it, sir, so that I can.
Sir, we didn't receive the mail, sir.
Oh, I have sent.
Sir,
Now I
sent
got
to me,
that,
sir.
sir.
Yeah. It will take just refresh.
Yeah, I got that, sir. I got that.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. I just a couple of 2 more minutes till sir starts presenting.
It's a very nice presentation, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So anyway, let him start. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead with the talk. So the next I have actually put my slide is that the research writing process. The first thing I want to tell you is that it is never writing; it is always rewriting. Okay, I already told you that this is the place where there is a misunderstanding goes to the peak between the guide and the candidate, right? Okay, right. When the guide tells you revise and present it tomorrow, see what is, sir, I have done 4 times, but it is not meeting the standards. That is a problem, really. And you see, these days, I would like to tell you that you can go to the 25th or 26th slide. You can go, sir. So these days, for instance, I will share with as personal experience. I am there with one of a very reputed journals. That is Shantiniketan's journal. There is Shantiniketan, Rabindranath Tagore's Shantiniketan University. I'm there in the editorial board of one of its educational journals. A little earlier, I think. Little earlier, I think, sir.
26th, Sudarshan. 26th slide. Yes.
Yeah, never writing, always rewriting. Yeah. No, you should start from the current slide. Okay, anyway. So, when I get a script, when I get a manuscript for blind review, they send it with something called a docket sheet. As a person looking for a publication, you should also understand what happens at the other side of the table. Right? Okay. So the paper comes, and on that you have a docket sheet. And the docket sheet, there will be a dummy number, because that's what we call as a blind review. It's called double blind review. Nowadays, there is two blind reviewers will be doing. So I have no idea who is the author of the paper, from where it has originated. Okay, that's how it happens. So when it comes to me, the docket sheet consists of several options for me. You know what is the first option? You don't mistake, don't get discouraged because of this. But this is what most of the standard journals do. First option is clearly reject the paper. First option is clearly reject the paper. If you think that the paper is not of good standard, you reject the paper. You don't require any reason for that, right? Because you know the philosophy of the journal, you know the standard of the journal as an identified reviewer. So if you think that this paper will not match the standards of our journal, you reject it. That's all. Okay. And the second option is accept the paper with major modifications. Okay. And you know what is given in brackets? It says suggest at least 3 to 4 pages of modifications. It becomes a big headache for the reviewer. Okay. Now, sometimes we feel that, you know, what is it? I am writing almost like writing a paper. 4 pages modifications I have to write. If I choose that option, second option, accept with major modifications. Okay. Then the next option is accept the paper with minor modifications. So 1 to 2 pages of suggestions I have to give, right, for modifications. Then the next option is accept with major language corrections. Again, another 3 pages of I have to mention. Instead of this, this has to be like this, major language corrections. Then the next option is accept with minor language corrections. So at least 1 page I have to mention what are the language corrections required. Then after 6 or 7 stages only, final option given to me is accept the paper as it is. Okay. So unless your paper goes through these windows, right, paper is not going to be accepted as it is. So be prepared to get the comments of the reviewers. See, again, I want to tell you, I am not talking about any predatory journal that will take 5,000 rupees from you and publish anything that you write. I am not talking about those journals. Right, that is something different, right? No, that's a different ball game. I am not going deep into it. Some journal I have seen, it will say this month it will say impact factor 4.71. Next month it will say impact factor 5.96. I don't know over a month how an impact factor can go up like that. That is a different story. I am not going deep into that. Or that is unnecessary talk. For quality conscious researchers like you and me, it is not a worthy talk. So I'm not going deep into it, right? Okay. So go to the previous slide, sir. One slide above. One slide above. 26th one. Yes. Just project it. It has to be in the full screen. Yeah. So for the rewriting process, you know, analyzing, revising, and improving the contents. That is what is all rewriting. So we analyze what is wrong, right? What is the way in which what is expected and what is given here, right? You know, the gap analysis and revising it, improving it, right? You know, in that process, you know, comments of peers and experts will help you. See, this is something drastically missing in our context, because I know I am a professor of educational technology here. So when I write a paper, I think that, you know, what I have written is right. I'm not what to say, humble enough to give it to another professor of educational technology and seek his opinion. Just read and give me your opinion, right? Again, but you know, the comments of peers will help you, because they may say that why not you do like this? Because why not can you do something like this? You know, getting that suggestions for improvement from peers and experts, right, will help you. But unfortunately, most of the people who write papers, they think that they are experts themselves, right? You know, why I should think of another expert to get a comment, right? So like, but that will not help you, right? That will suggestions from experts and peers will help you. And you know, more importantly, reviewing similar research reports, you know, provide you different styles. I always tell my teachers, my students, you see, research writing is something like building a house. Okay. Imagine I want to build a house. Okay. What I would do, I would call an engineer and tell him, sir, you know, I have a space, you know, I have some 10 cents or 12 cents of land, and I have this much of money. I want a house, right? A triple bedroom house with a car park, with some garden, this and that, no? And 2 stories or something like that. You know, there will be always part 2 of the discussion. You know who will do that? My wife will do that. My wife will call the engineer, sir, you please come here. You have taken all details from my husband. Okay. Now I want to tell you something, sir. You see, in my uncle's house, they have designed the kitchen in this way. So very effectively done, very easy to clean and very nice. And similarly, you arrange the kitchen. And you know, in my colleague's home, you know, the living room is arranged like this. So the book rack, the television cabinet, everything is so nicely done. So similarly, arrange that. I will ask my friend to send by WhatsApp the image, photograph. I will share it with you. You design like that. Maybe part 3, my daughter will take it up. You know, she will say, you know, uncle, my classmate's bedroom, right? My classmate's study room is designed like that, with all internet connectivity, provision for everything is given. So similarly, arrange that. So what are we trying to do here? We are trying to bring the best elements we have seen in elsewhere in others' homes. We would like to bring it here. Okay. So similarly, when you read different research articles, you yourself will understand, okay, the introduction part is well done in this article. Now, in this article, the conclusion part is well done. So I will also adopt the same way. So it is like that, right? So that is why we funnily say, if you copy from one person, it is plagiarism. When you copy from 100%, it is research. Okay, right? That's what funnily we say like that. Okay, so that's it. So reviewing of similar research reports will give you different styles, and putting all the different styles together, you can evolve a style of your own. For instance, to some extent, having worked for some time, especially if one of my when some scholars bring some manuscripts to me, I will tell them, right, did this guy help you to write this? Because I know that scholar earlier he was with me, he would have guided that candidate because his style of writing would be that. So when you read it from other person, you can easily locate that, right? And another important thing is it's a continuous process. Many people, while preparing a research proposal and time budgeting, when they do, they always will put like that. Concept development, tool development, data collection, pilot study, data validation, tool validation, data collection, and the last 6 months they will put research report writing. You cannot write a report at the end of the research, right? It has to happen right from beginning, right? And it should not be left to the end of the work. I always tell my students a simple calculation. If you are coming for PhD under me, it is going to be 2.5 years to 3 years. Okay, every day, if you are going to write 5 to 10 lines, right, in a notebook, so 2.5 years, you are going to have at least about 15,000 to 20,000 lines, right? If you edit it well, then in no time, in about 1 month, 2 months time, you will get a research report ready, right? Don't think that you are going to spend 4 months, 5 months writing a report. Next slide, sir, please. Right, again. So the key point of research writing, so I would just take another few minutes because I should not to eat into your lunchtime. So key points, the clarity, that's very, very important. And the language has to be direct, simple and coherent. I have spoken a lot about that. Direct writing, simple writing. Simple to what level? Simple to the level of the work that you're doing. Okay, sir, you want me to write in simple language. So can I go to my 4th standard, 5th standard composition style? Cow is a domestic animal. It eats grass. It gives milk. Can I write like that? You should write in a simple language that is to your level. Okay, that's very important. And there is a principle called KISS principle. Always, that is, keep it short and simple. Keep it very short and simple. Right? It's not that many people think that writing a very, very high sounded language is required for PhD. Right? In a MEd, it can be some easy, simple thing can be there, but PhD means some high sounded words I should do. No, it is not required. The good writing is one which is understood by the commonest of the common people easily, right? And simplicity and brevity, brief writing is important, but not at the cost of the reason, right? And complexity of the researchers. Brief, we have to be brief, but at the same time, we cannot leave out some of the ideas, right? Okay. And remember, standards of accuracy with regard to research writing and evaluating research writing are higher. For instance, I would tell you, very recently, I happened to conduct an online viva, and one of the examiners, right, very easily we can find out the examiner naturally is a foreign examiner. Okay, because we can see from the report itself, the examiner has written, right, in the research report that runs to 215 pages, 218 pages, in 53 places, the investigator has used the word very, VERY. What is the justification for this? Because the word very is an intensifier. If I come to Mysore and enjoy a good Mysore filter coffee, right? If somebody says, how was the coffee? Very tasty, sir. Okay. And somebody may say it is very, very tasty. No. And somebody may say tasty. Because the word very is the intensifier for the word tasty. But you see, in a research report, even tasty you cannot use, because tasty is an adjective. For you, or it may mean one level of taste, and for another person, it may mean another level of taste. Okay. You may say it is good, and what you say is good may not be good for another person. Right. So how do you use a word like very in a report? Right. So that is the level of standards that are expected. Next slide, sir, please. So can you just move to the next slide, sir? So the tone has to be impersonal, right? Some of the other points that I have made. Sir, the admin, sir, are you moving the slides?
It's the right slide only, sir.
Oh, is it starting with tone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Tone
Yes,
is
sir.
present. Oh, but I think there is in my screen it is still the previous. Right? There is something that is wrong
Yours
with
is
that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now it's okay. So let us go ahead. If it is open, it is right for the participants. It's fine because
Yes.
the tone is impersonal. Because nowadays, except the North American, Canadian writers, usage of I, we, and all are not. We use it as the investigator, the researcher, like that only because we want to make it as an objective one. Okay? But nowadays, some researchers I see, we started the research under the premise like that they also write. But mostly in our context, since we follow a British English, in fact, I should say, after all this computerization, word processing, and all this British and American Englishes are now, the gap is very, very minimal. Even if you write in a British English, when you word process it in a Microsoft Word, it becomes American, right? So that's how it becomes, right? And personal pronouns are better avoided in the research content, and adjectives and fancy phrases are to be avoided. And it's better to use a kind of a third person singular and something like a dummy subject, right? Something dummy subject, something like it was found, right? Now, instead of writing I found, right? Okay, it was found that, right? Okay, the data revealed that, right? So like that, okay. And most importantly, the uses of tenses. Many people ask me, sir, this is second chapter, sir. This is all about the previous research. So can I use all past tense? And this is about third chapter. Can I use all present perfect tense? No, there is no such hard and fast rule like that. It is the situation, it is the context that will decide what type of a tense you would use for that particular context, right? So next slide, sir. Next slide. Right? So appropriate use of tenses is important, and the use of non-sexist language, right? So gender bias in language. Okay. So if it has moved to that slide, it is fine for me, right? Okay. So it's kind of a gender bias, especially when you submit a manuscript to any international journal, right? It is expected that the language has to be free from gender bias, right? Now, how do you avoid a gender bias? Is it the other screen shared? Can you tell me? I have put some examples there.
Sudarshan, go to next slide. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Use of non-sexist language to avoid gender bias. Yeah? So, for instance, when you say the customer was given the freedom to make his choice, the language becomes gender biased. Why? Because the customer can be a lady also. Why do you think that the customer can be a male? Okay. So what you have to do, you have to make it as the customer was given the freedom to make his/her choice. Okay. Maybe Dr. Rajalakshmi will question that, right? Why is his first, right? Again, that is gender bias. Okay, that is male domination. His first and her next. So put her first/his. Okay, so that is then. Now, why get into this problem? This is a problem starting from the days of Adam and Eve. Okay, right? Okay, so why to get into the problem? You make it as the customers were given the freedom to make their choices. Then you escape from the problem of this his and her. Okay, so like that, it can be easily, it can be done. Okay, and the sentence structures have to be perfect. I will give some examples quickly, right? Don't mind if I have to go for another 7 minutes or 7 or 8 minutes. Spelling, capitalization, abbreviation, punctuation, everything needs to be taken care of. You cannot take anything for granted here because these are going to be raised an issue. I will give you another example. One of Rajalakshmi's friend, who is my postdoctoral research scholar, we submitted a paper to an American journal. Okay, and it is about mathematics education. So the first line of the entire article was mathematics is a broad, right? Is an old, deep and broad field of study. Okay, you understand the point? Mathematics is an old, broad and deep field of study. And the reviewer has asked, you justify these points, old, broad, and deep. What do you want to say? Okay, right? What do you mean by mathematics is a deep study or deep field of study? What do you want to say it's a broad field of study? What and why do you say it's an old field of study? You justify. Where is the evidence for this? Right? From where you picked up the idea? Okay. We have answered all the other questions, but for this one, we could not say anything, right? We say simply, it is a random thought, right? Because it is as old as the mountains, right? right? So like that, but it was published later, but still the comment was not successfully answered. That is something that I would like to say, right? So that is why I say all these things have to be taken care of, right? So I have listed some negative mannerisms. Next slide, sir. Next slide, please. So some negative, so there is something called mannerisms. No, in speech, no, in your personal behavior, you'll see some people will be adjusting their glasses often. Some people will be rubbing their hands often. No, some like mannerisms are there. In writing also, there are some mannerisms. You can easily go through, find it out if you analytically see that. Right? So there are the negative mannerisms I have highlighted with examples. I'm not going deep into something called tautology. Tautology is expressing something needlessly in different ways. Right? For instance, if you say, I went there personally, right? There is no need of the word personally. I went there is sufficient. Right? So when you say, I heard with my own ears, can you hear with somebody else's ears? Right? Okay. Can you do that with somebody else's ears? Or can you write something like, I heard with my own legs? Right? You cannot say. So why it is like, I heard with my own ears? Right? I say it is enough, I heard myself. Right? Or I heard. Right? Okay. You see here something like, there is the visitors arrived in succession one after the other. Only if some people come one after the other, it is arriving in succession. Right? Okay. And this something like this I see even in official communication. There is a meeting at 6 a.m. in the morning. AM itself is enough, right? Why unnecessary? Next slide, sir, please. Right? Okay. So these things are self-explanatory. You can go about it, right? ATM machine, PIN number, okay, right? ISBN number. The last N is for number, right? There is no need. Next slide, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Next slide. Now there is something called verbosity. Verbosity is expressive style that uses excessive or empty words. There's something called pomposity or circumlocution. And you can by avoiding verbosity, your readers read faster and your own clarity is enhanced and your writing will have a greater impact. Go to the next slide. Just click once. Next slide.
Verbosity.
Yeah. So there is click only once. The second click will give on something else. So there is a passage here. I will read it quickly. Oh, you have looked that also. That's okay. Right? The entire paragraph that I have given in that dark gray, the meaning of it is given in red. Okay. Very simple. Amidst the sweet reverberations caused by the melodiously composed musical melee descended on the dais, his would-be soulmate for the rest of the journey called life, attired in snowy white costumes and her tearful eyes, stole a glance of his countenance from behind the veil of modesty and grace. What is the meaning of the whole passage? The bride looked at the groom. That's all. Okay. Again, I kindly share this PPT with the participants. Let them take it home. Let them sit with the dictionary and find out the word by word meaning and come to a conclusion. Is there any other meaning that is given there? It is very simply the bride looked at the groom. Right? That's all. But why all this? These are all okay. When you write a novel, it is okay. Right? But when you write a research report, right, it's something. Next, skip the next two slides and go, sir. Next one also another example. Next one also another example. You skip this, right, for verbosity. Yeah. Next is jargons. Jargons are the out of context technical language of a particular profession. So something is meaningful in a medical document. Something is good in a business document that may not be good in your document, right? Okay, something like that. So next slide, sir. Right. So something in political, some military language, the political language, right? The word operation in a military document is something different, right? So we don't have, right, that type of an expression repeatedly having the same meaning in different contexts. Next slide, sir. Next is cliches, right? Colloquialisms, right? Free expressions like hold on, long time no see. Maybe sometimes when I meet Rajalakshmi in Bharadas University, I say, come on, Rajalakshmi, long time no see, right? Can we have that type of a thing in writing, right? Contractions like we are, I have, even a word like para, lab are not accepted in a research report. It has to be laboratory and paragraph, right? Okay, next one. Right? Next one is cliches. Next one. Next slide, sir. Slangs like, cool, super size. These are all possible only in media. And in all these advertisements, media language, it is part. But it's not a part of standard vocabulary of an official document. Right? Next slide. Right? Cliches, right? As a matter of fact, to be frank, right? To tell you the truth. In a conversation, it is possible, right? Something to tell you the truth. But can anybody start a sentence like to tell you a lie right? Like that, people will start, right? Okay. Actually, these are all called thought fillers, right? Somebody is putting a question. Sir, can you explain this better? Can you give another example for this? You know, my dear students, when I say, you know, my students, what I'm doing, I'm actually filling the gap. I'm generating an idea. So I'm filling that gap with something like, you know, my dear students, in your 8th standard, you have studied something like that. That is what I'm seeing here. You know, that is a kind of a thought filler. But here, only after completely thorough thinking only we write it. So there is no need for thought filling, right? Okay. So next one, right? Next slide, sir. So next slide, right? So some examples I have, right? And I will close it here. So these are exactly taken from some research reports that came to me, or my own scholars might have done it, right? Something from the real life examples, right? See, look at the first one is an objective, right? Okay. In an academic research, in an educational research, teacher education research. So something like this, to find out the significance of difference between the mean digital literacy scores of the male and female teachers. Okay, that's something like that. Now, if you read it at the very peripheral level, it may look to be perfect, no doubt at all, right? But if you do it analytically from a research point of view, even here I have seen many people writing to find out the significant difference between. No, that is again a gross mistake, because if you write something like to find out the significant difference, that means you have already decided that there will be some significant difference. That is what is the meaning, right? So what you are doing is that male and female teachers, there will be some difference in their digital literacy scores, but your purpose is only to see whether it is statistically significant. So you are going to have a t-test to find out the significance of difference. So it is significance of difference. Even here, if you want to make it truly research oriented, what should be here is to find out the significance of difference, comma, if any, between the mean digital literacy scores of the male and female teachers. Okay. If there is any difference between male teachers and female teachers, whether it is significant statistically. Okay. Because if that if any is not there, what it communicates is that means you have already decided that there will be some significance of difference. So research becomes subjective, but research has to be objective, right? So you cannot start with a preconceived notion that men and women will differ in their digital literacy scores. So you have to put it something like to find out the significance of difference, comma, if any, between the mean digital literacy scores of the male and female. Okay. The next one, you see, there is an item in the tool. It's a kind of so not an item in the tool. It's a research finding. It was found that the mean ICT attitude score of the men is higher than the women. Okay. You know, here again, peripheral level reading will say that it seems to be okay. But remember, it only seems to be okay. It is not okay, right? Because it has to be, if you want to make it more research oriented, it has to be, it was found that the mean ICT attitude score of the men is higher than that of the women. Okay. Because you are comparing two attitude scores. Okay. So one score, on the other hand, there is another score. Between that, there is right higher, right? So it is better to write like a score of the men is higher than that of the women. Okay. And the next one is an item in an attitude in a scale. Okay. So he's actually one of my students did it, an ML MPhil student. He was doing some work on educational television programs, and he wanted to find out the reactions of the people, perceptions of people about it, right? So he wrote an item like this. So I picked it up as an example. Okay? So the ETV programs on Vias channel are informative and entertaining. Okay, this is given to me. I am a respondent. Okay, and there is 5 options are given to me: strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Then I watch Vias channel and I agree with the point they are informative, but they are not entertaining. Where I will put the tick mark. Okay, okay. So that cannot be an item. So there is something called rule of oneness. In one item of a research tool, only one focal theme has to be there. Okay. So it has to be 2 items. The ETV programs on Vias channel are informative. One. The second item, the ETV programs on Vias channel are entertaining. So for the first item, I will say strongly agree. And for the second item, I will say strongly disagree. Okay. So that is what is called as rule of oneness. Can you go to the next slide, sir? Okay, quick. So you see, the data were subjected to appropriate descriptive and differential analysis. Again, it is something that many people write without a small minute observation. You see, descriptive statistics are one set of statistics and differential analysis are another set. So there are two different levels of analysis, so it has to be plural. So one small change, analysis, right, instead of ANALYSIS, it has to be ANALYSS, that's all. Okay. And that next one, I see in many places the data reveals that. Please understand, the word data is a plural. Okay. Datum is singular and data is plural. And when you have data, it has to be revealed. The data reveal that. Okay. And look at the next one. Data correction was done by the investigator in the respective institutions. Okay. You know what was the original writing? It was data collection, COLLECTIO. But what is given in the print is data correction. Then you know what the scholar says, sir, I wrote and as collection only, sir, but the DTP person has by mistake entered as correction, sir. But you know, it was not underlining in red also. MS Word is not showing that in red underline. So what to do? Microsoft Word will not underline that because there is a word in English like correction. So and data correction also is possible. Sometimes we do that also. Am I right? Right? So so you should not depend too much on Microsoft Word's auto correction. That will put you in trouble like this. So it has to be like that. You next one, you see, 58 items were pooled initially for the environmental awareness scale. Perfectly okay. No grammar mistake. Nothing. Right? It is right. No mistake at all in terms of the grammar, or spelling, or vocabulary. Okay. But there is one problem with the style. The style is because one of the rules of English style says that you cannot start an English language as English sentence with a number. Right? 58, you cannot start with the number. So what to do now? You have to write it something like as many as 58 items were pooled initially for the environmental awareness scale, or you make it as FIFTY-EIGHT, right? 58 items. So you cannot start with the numerals, right? The number here. Okay? The next one, you see, the characters of the research tool are as follows. What he wants to say is characteristics. Actually, I have taken it from a research methodology book. Okay, I don't want to name the author. They want to say it's about characteristics of the research tool, but they have printed as characters, right, of the research tool. Right, it is from a standard research methodology book which is widely used among MEd students. Right, okay, that's it. Okay, so next slide, right, one or two more, and I just close it. You see here, it is actually only to prove that, you know, these are all original writings of my scholars. I have got a screenshot here. Okay, so there is something like that you see here. I will read it quickly, right? Just another 2-3 minutes I close. You see, the digital revolution and economic globalization have heralded a new era towards the global knowledge society, where information, skills, and competence become the driving forces of social and economic development. The problems associated with this transformation cannot any longer be solved by traditional means. And you know, I have put a bracket mark for Pachan. Second one, the Indian higher education system is said to be the one of the largest sector in the world with around 600 universities and 35,000 colleges. You see, what is this? First segment, it is a totally different talk. Digital revolution, economic globalization, this and that. And suddenly, without any proper linkage between the previous section and section, you write something like the Indian higher education. Okay? And you say that Indian higher education is said to be. Who is saying this? Okay? You are not a politician to speak from a podium like, you know, people say this, people say that, I refute this. No, that is not the case. You have to write the Indian higher education stands today with 917 universities and 37,000 colleges, in bracket source, right? Indian Association of Indian Universities report 2020. That is what is research writing. You cannot say it is said to be one of the largest. Who is saying? Okay. Then you see, despite of this, India is hardly able to register 15% of the gross enrollment ratio as against 23% GR at the global level. Who is giving all these 15%, 23%? Immediately you should put in bracket some source. Yet UNESCO education report or World Education Report 2020. Without that, it is meaningless research writing. Next slide, sir, please. Right? Yeah, look at, see, most of the time you people say that the guide is torturing the candidate, but you see the way in which a candidate can torture the guide. Right? Okay, you see here, See, somebody is writing, learning is a non-substitutionable necessity and an everyday phenomenon of everyone's life, right from a toddler with 2 legs to a toddler with 3 legs, inclusive of the support stick. Okay. So in the old age, people start with support stick. See, I have written somewhere, ultimately the guide will go on 4 sticks soon. Right? Okay. See, who's that? Every old man is walking with a stick. What is that? Right? Can you just generalize like that? Right? So such writing, has to be avoided. And again, you see the next one. This being a widely accepted fact, learning and education become an irreplaceable necessity. Then learning and education, are they same? Okay. So learning is a part of education. And you are writing in the third line, irreplaceable necessity. The first line, you write a non-substitutional necessity. What do you want to say? All are same, right? That's a type of, in just 3 lines, you see the same thing repeating, right? Like that, these things you have to avoid. Next slide, please. Okay. Yeah. Next slide, sir, quickly. It has moved to the next slide. You see, the challenge before distance education courses are very popular in rural India. What do you mean by that? Very popular. What is that? What is the word meaning? Right? Is it an actor or actress? We can say Dilip Kumar was a popular actor in 1980s, right? Hema Malini was a popular actress in those times, right? No, is it that meaning you want to say, right? That is it, right? Like that, And yeah. So like that type of a generalized statements you should skip. And this is also okay. This is a very famous quote of John W. Best. But one thing I want to highlight is that, you see, there is one word I have put around here. It's like it constructs a framework for communicating the essence of what the data reveal. You see, it is written as frame space work. But it will not, the MS Word will not underline here, because there is a possibility of 2 separate words, frame and work. And if you are going to say that, because it did not underline, sir, red or green, so I allowed it, that is not the point. And I am not, again, as I told you, I am not a very popular guide in my place. I'll say, sir, we are not giving the degree to the DTP person. We are not giving the degree to the MS Word person. You are the researcher. So you should see, right, whether it is what John W. Best says. He says framework. He doesn't say frame and work. Okay, so like that, you have to see that, right? Okay. Next slide, sir, please. Almost I'm over, right? You see here, again, the same thing in this chapter, comma, right? Okay. You see, there is a funny saying. There was something that one boy wants to communicate to the other boy, right? In a house, in a family, right? You see, they want to talk to, where they said something like, let us eat grandpa. Okay. Let us eat grandpa. And, he wanted to show that. And he wrote something like, let us eat grandpa without comma. Okay. And what will happen? Are you going to eat grandpa? Right? So you are inviting grandpa to eat. So it has to be, let us eat, comma, grandpa. Okay. If you don't put a comma, it is going to be fatal to the grandpa. You are not going to eat grandpa. So if you say, let us eat grandpa, it means you are going to eat grandpa himself. Right? Okay. That's it. Right? So like that, commas are important. Right? Okay. And, again, undertaken. The word here is undertaken, not it is under separately and taken. Next slide, right? Okay. And when you copy and paste and work, something you have to be very careful. You see here, something like figure 4.1 pie chart showing the sample in terms of frequency of computer use. You see the description, the above table 4.7, right? So, and people will say, sir, I just copied that and I wanted to do that, somehow I missed it, sir. That is not the point. You should not miss, right? That's the point I'll say, right? Okay. So next slide, please, right? Okay. So, so I have almost concluded that. I have just put some websites there, right? Yeah, it is there. So I am just throwing some random examples which I have come across, right? And just to make you understand that these are some of the things that are repeatedly observed as mistakes by research guides and reviewers of research papers and all. But some websites are there which can enhance your writing skills. The first one, OWL English, Purdue University's website, that is online writing lab. It is like a laboratory where you can practice, right? You can enhance your writing skills. Then, online writing guide. Then Stephen D. Cross website. There is tips for research writing, TPRW. Tips for professional research writing. Stephen D. Cross is a very famous writer specializing in research writing. So these sites are all there. You can explore. Anyway, already I have shared this with the admin, who in turn can share this PPT with all of you. You take it home, do an analysis. You did not take everything that I have spoken as right, because you are a researcher. You should have that questioning sense. So whatever I have told you, you raise a question whether I was meaningful in communicating that point to you. So if you are convinced that yes, you have to go by these things, go by it, right? And there are very many platforms where you can learn the art of scientific writing, technical writing, right? So you can learn that and make a better one. So only one humble request to you is that when you sit with your pen and paper to write, even while writing the letter words, you just think once. I am going to write this word, whether this word is meaningful in this context, or is there any better word that I can think of? Okay. So if you take care of your writing at the word level, then sentences take care of themselves, and paragraphs take care of themselves, and chapters take care of themselves. Right. So quality assurance has to be done at the very basic level of writing, at the level of sentences, right? So if you do that, you achieve it, right? So thank you very much, right? You can go to the next slide, sir, the last slide, where I think I have put my mail ID. Any of you, if want you to have some details shared, you can feel free to be in touch with me. So all that I have to tell you is that do a good work of writing, and be conscious about one thing, that you have to enhance the quality of your writing. And quality is never an accident. It is it comes after thorough work, good work, right? Meaningful work, and repeatedly practicing. It's a culture. It's not that we do one paper good and another paper half a sort. It's not that. It is a culture that we have to get into. Right. So thank you very much. Now. So you can think for yourself, right? I put a question on the first slide, why I have put that bullseye hitting that arrow. Now you can think for yourself why I have put it, right? And reflect upon it, right? So it is ultimately research writing, right? Okay. No, that is what it is. So thank you, everyone. So thank you, Dr. Shivaram, sir, for staying there for the entire session, right? Nice to see a really academic dean here, right? Mostly when you become a director, dean, you become more of an administrator. It's okay. So it's nice to see. So thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Rajalakshmi, for giving me an opportunity to associate with a very divine institution like Adi Chunchanagiri University. I've had the opportunity to be in one of their institutions, so I know the work they do.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Okay.
Very nice.
So thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
ரொம்ப நன்றி sir for your
வணக்கம்.
valuable orientation. To tell you very frankly, sir, we don't know how the time went on. We have gained a lot of knowledge by your orientation. Almost most of our stomach is filled by eating the cake. So thank you very much, sir, for providing very good lunch. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
It is the time for clarifying our doubts. If any queries, please do raise your doubts one by one.
Before that, you have a question, no? RK Swami, you can write.
Also. So there is a participant as asked called Durga Paps. What are the benefits of publishing a research paper in a special issue over a regular issue?
I don't think there is any specific difference, because after all, it is the same journal. On some occasions, right, or maybe on an occasion of National Education Day, they bring in a special issue, or some National Environment Day, they bring in a special issue on environmental education. It doesn't matter, because it is counted as one of the issues, right? It will be volume 1. Maybe if there are 4 issues per year, same volume 1 volume number will be there, and issue number will be the 5th one. So it doesn't make any difference at all, as long as the journal is a valid journal in terms of ISBN, ISSN, and other indexing that has been done. It doesn't make any difference. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I'm Nanjini from Sri Adi Chunchanagiri College of Education, Chandrapatna.
Fine.
I have a question regarding knowledge gap in research. So we can identify the knowledge gap through review of related literature.
Yes.
So can we identify, like, how to identify the knowledge gap other than a review of related literature? Other than that, can we identify?
Yeah, the review of related literature alone can help you in identifying what has been done and what has not been done. Okay, and there is no other way of getting a research problem. A research problem has to occur to you after a lot of reviews, and that problem should come and knock. this fellow has done this fellow has done this fellow has focused on this. But this particular thing has not been touched upon by these people. So why not I attempt to do this? So that is what is the identification of the research gap, for which a comprehensive review only can help you. Right? Of course, interaction with experts, interaction with discussion with colleagues, that can also help you. Even your departmental colleagues can tell you, I think this is one particular area which our department has not done much of work. So why not you do that, right? So that also can happen. But again, after getting that preliminary idea, you should go and read more literature, right, related to that. Only then you will be in a position to establish your research gap. Okay. So the randomly saying that this is an unexplored area, you have to support it with evidences, right? So against all the studies reviewed in the these reports, right, this is a unique study. That is where you establish the rationale of your research.
So for the justification, we need RRL to identify the knowledge
compulsory,
gap.
yeah. Unless even today in international research reporting style, even it is trend analysis. That's something called. So in the 1980s, research on these things were focusing on this. 90s focus was on this. 2000 plus it was on this. So current focus of the international research trend is this. So my study is in line with the research trend that is in vogue, like that. That's called trend analysis.
So knowledge gap play a vital role in or a pivotal role in the research, right?
Yeah, otherwise people are going to say that it is yet another repeat work, right? Okay, so somebody has done it with Mandya district and you have done it with Mysore district, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's
so that's all. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
So very informative session, sir. I am Shobha from Adi Chinchanagiri BGS College of Education, Adi Chinchanagiri University, sir.
Fine.
Sir, my question is, what are the best practices to write a research article professionally?
Professional research writing, for the best practices, I would say the first one is review good articles, right, before starting to write. And the second one is bring in the best elements from the reviews you have done and incorporate them into your writing, so that you will get a good style of writing of your own. The two best things. And then never mind corrections, modifications, suggestions by peers and other things, right? So if you are going to not going to submit it to your level, then when you submit it to an organization, the reviewers are going to do that. The third person is going to say that this is wrong, this is something that needs to be improved, right? So at your level itself, you can do a lot of self-criticism you can do. For instance, even if you write 2 pages, leave it on the table, go for a cup of coffee, go for a walk and come back and read it. You will feel like improving it, right? You will feel like adding something to it, right? It is that is the way. So you do self-criticism, get it to peer criticism, and the third level, get it to expert criticism. If you do cross these filters, then the reviewers' work becomes easy, and the reviewers do not give too many comments, right? Okay, so that's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Good. So it's nice to see good quality questions coming from BGS College, right? Good, nice.
Yes, sir.
Yes, in spite of the fact it's a hungry time, right? Okay. So it's over to the organizing team for winding up. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir, for clarifying our doubts. So with this happy moment, may I ask Sri Puttaswamy, Assistant Professor, BGS College of Education, Adi Chinchanagiri University, to render the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Jai Shri Gurudev. Good afternoon to all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellors, Registers of Tamilnadu Teacher Education University and Adi Chinchanagiri University, vigorous speaker, respected dignitaries, and all the participants. The unthankful heart discovers no mercies, but the thankful heart will find in every hour some heavenly blessings. I feel immense pleasure to express my deepest sense of gratitude to those who made this webinar a successful one. I express my thanks from the bottom of my heart to the patron of this webinar, kind-hearted and a unique leader, Professor Dr. N. Panchanatham, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Tamilnadu Teacher Education University, Tamil Nadu, who inaugurated the webinar with this inaugural address. I thank you, sir, on behalf of organizing team and Adi Chunchanagiri University. Thank you, sir. I express my heartfelt thanks to another patron of this webinar, the man of wisdom, Professor Dr. S. Chandrasekhara Shetty, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Adi Chunchanagiri University, for valuable support and guidance in organizing this webinar. I thank you, sir, on behalf of organizing the team. Thank you, sir. My special thanks to one more patron of the webinar and among the topmost scientists of the world is none other than Professor K. Bhairappa, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean Research Adi Chunchanagiri University, for making this webinar successful with his introductory address. I thank you, sir, on behalf of organizing team. I must mention our deepest sense of appreciation to the vigorous speaker, Professor Dr. S. Senthilinathan, Director, UGC Human Resource Development Center and Professor, Department of Educational Technology, Bharathidasan University, Tamil Nadu, for his excellent presentation of the topic and enlightening us with your thoughts. I thank you from the inner chords of my heart, behalf of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and Adi Chunchanagiri University, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I express sincere thanks to the co-patron of the webinar, Dr. C.K. Subbaraya, Registrar, Adi Chunchanagiri University, for his support in organizing this webinar. Thank you very much, sir. I express my sincere gratitude to the co-patron of the webinar, Professor V. Balakrishnan, Registrar, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Tamil Nadu, for your valuable words to the participants. I thank you, sir, on behalf of Adi Chunchanagiri University and my own behalf. Thank you, sir. I express my special thanks to another co-patron of the webinar, Professor M. Govindan, Dean and Controller of Examination, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University. I thank you, sir, on behalf of Adi Chunchanagiri University and my own behalf. Thank you, sir. My heartfelt thanks to the director of the webinar, Professor M. Soundaran Rajan, Dean, Professor and Head of Department of Value Education, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, for his timely guidance and support in organizing this program. Thank you very much, sir. My sincere thanks to the convener of the webinar, Dr. A.T. Shivaramu, Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, Adi Chunchanagiri University, Principal, BGS College of Education, BG Nagara, for his inspiring words and for taking lead in organizing the webinar. Thank you very much, sir. I express my sincere gratitude to the organizing secretaries, Dr. R. Rajalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, and Sri A.C. Devanand, Assistant Professor, BGS College of Education, Adi Chunchanagiri University, who have taken all responsibilities in organizing this webinar. I thank you on behalf of Adi Chunchanagiri University and Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University. I express my sincere gratitude to organizing Joint Secretaries of the webinar, Dr. K. Ratiswari, Assistant Professor, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Sri V. Vijayakumar, Assistant Professor, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Sri A.H. Gopal, Assistant Professor, BGS College of Education, Adi Chunchanagiri University, for their sincere effort in organizing this program. Thank you all. My special thanks to Sri Sudarshan Raj, Technical Assistant, BGS College of Education, Adi Chunchanagiri University, for his technical support. Thank you, sir. I extend my sincere gratitude to all the officials of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and Adi Chunchanagiri University for your support in organizing this webinar. Thank you all. The heart of the webinar is our participants who are from different parts of India. I thank you, dear principals, professors, associate professors, assistant professors, teachers, scholars, students, and other participants. Thank you all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Jai Shri Gurudev.
Thank you very much, sir. We have come to an end today's webinar. which was very successful and enlightening all. Once again, thank you one and all. Have a great day. Jai Hind, Nandri, Namaskaragalu, Dhanyavadagalu, and Jai Shri Gurudev.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Wonderful.